Boom.
Nice.
We are live. Welcome, everybody. So I wanted to talk about, among other things, basically how everything right now is sort of a battle of perception. And there's basically a war for our minds and our attention, and forces constantly focused on an intense effort, basically trying to manipulate and control us, control our attention and how it's being weaponized, psyops, all that good stuff. I feel like we're kind of living in a convergence of like idiocracy and the Matrix right now. So everything is just so ridiculous, and it's kind of funny, but then simultaneously, it feels like the walls are closing in. Got like data centers spreading like a virus, like robots are coming, surveillance infrastructures are being developed, and then meanwhile there's like the UFC being hosted at the White House, and no one's being prosecuted for the Epstein files. A large percentage of them haven't even been released. Allegedly, the CIA confiscated more JFK and MK Ultra files from Tulsi Gabbard's office, but that could also be a strategic psyop, so who knows? So as time goes on, people, I think, are increasingly feeling that more events are being staged and things are scripted, or there's just this sort of unreal atmosphere, and it's just a giant loss of shared reality. And I think that some people are waking up, but others are kind of basically schizophrenic with paranoia. And so it's a lot, but at least it's interesting. And so, yeah, we've got like very popular influencers touching on esotericism in the worst way. So I thought it'd be kind of fun to discuss a bunch of things around that and get everybody's takes on things. I've got a couple clips that I'll start off playing, but before we get into all of that, maybe we could just go around first and let people know where they can find everyone. How about you, Ike?
Howdy. Ike Baker, IkeBaker.com, IKEBAKER.com. I host the Arcanum YouTube channel and podcast.
How about you, Eleftheria?
Yeah, Frater, Eleftheria, and I run the YouTube channel Lifting the Lamp and do a bunch of videos there, so you can check me out there.
Frater RC Hermetic Podcast. Thanks, guys, so much for hosting and are running the show today. As some of you might not know, we're sort of taking turns being the ringleader, and then the rest of us get to just be rabble rousers. So it's exciting. The theme you've picked, I know many people have been looking forward to us picking it. And I just want to say thank you to the audience so much. This is the first time I've ever seen the stream reacting overly positive to the music I play on my wind instruments, like the Irish low whistle I was playing in that intro music. And there's a special surprise regarding original music that I've got for everyone today. So I'm excited to get into the madness of the world as we find ourselves in it. And yeah, thanks everyone for being here. Am I coming through loud enough?
It sounds great on my end.
Cool.
Yeah, so I think
Let's
it's super
party.
easy to nudge public perception these days. And that's why popular influencers can be so dangerous, but also so important at the same time. And I just think, if nobody speaks to things, then there's no recourse. Not to say that it's our job or it's our duty or anything like that, but it's just, I think it's fun to talk about. And, if we have comments and thoughts on things, why not share our takes? And RC, you've been doing these really cool videos that I'm kind of a fan of.
Reaction videos.
Yeah, you review channels and channels that are like publishing content on things like that are kind of misleading, or they're giving impressions that are a little pretentious, and everyone is just trying to do their own thing, but it's
like sort of if I read a car manual or heaven forbid a medical student textbook and went online as a doctor, like with the stethoscope, giving advice to people on different conditions, someone would have to react to that and say, hey, hold on a minute, where are you getting this information? And that's I think what needs to be done. That's the art of criticism, right? A lot of my favorite writers, even poets like W.B. Yeats, they were known as critics. What did that mean? Today we have such a negative relationship to the word criticism, but it means analysis is what it means, is you're looking for the stress points and where you can find them ultimately to strengthen the research and position that you're critiquing. So it's a very valuable process. But in modern day YouTube and pop culture, this is something become known as reactions videos, right? So it's interesting to see what was very popular as cultural and literary criticism in the past 100, in the Victorian era, is actually equally popular today, if not more so, in the given the technology we have.
Yeah, I think one of the strangest things, first of all, it boils down to people who are too stupid to know that they're stupid. That's really the main thing. But the issue is, there's a couple. Main one is that in Western society, modern society, which is like an oil spill crept in all over the world at this point and contaminated everything. Not saying that it's a failed project, but certainly what I'm about to talk about is one of the negative sides that has contaminated everything. We don't know how to be anything. We know how to seem ways, and that seeming is a product of mass marketing consumerism. All we know has been taught to us through some form of aesthetic, whether it's a billboard or a television series or a movie trilogy that we loved and is hardwired into our DNA. Many of us think that in order to be the thing, we just need to get the stuff. Okay. And now in this new influencer trend where everybody feels like they're fucking qualified, the stuff is the information, the rote information. Forget the contextualizing of it that weaves it into an actual fucking like cognizable gestalt, a whole. Forget all that. It's just these little hyper snippets of information that people just kind of feel like, I'm not even sure people are concerned whether or not their information is reliable, but they're just vomiting it out there. And the other problem is that, this. We grew up with TV. Normal people, average people, did not have audiences. Only people on television, only movie stars, only newscasters, only people who had that sort of stamp of institutional or media support and approval and credential had followings. Now that anyone can have a fucking following, depending on whether or not using AI, whether or not you're showing your tits, we feel like that gives us authority. Why? Because, I watched everybody watch Jimmy Kimmel or I have an audience. I see it just hyper inflating people's sense of confidence where they go and they talk about fucking things they have no right to talk about. I kept my mouth shut for 11 fucking years. Okay. Shut. Like an akusmatikos, and that's a huge problem that we're facing here, because what's happening is the market is getting so saturated that people are losing the ability to discern what is bullshit. All you guys out there, and I'm going to end on this, what you got to do right now is you need to strengthen the fuck out of your bullshit meter. Okay. Because only more of it is coming.
Yeah. A nice calm start to the evening.
Well, I'm only going to be here for an hour, so I figured I'd start it off with a bang.
Well, yeah. And it definitely is, getting harder to discern, what's legitimate kind of opinion from what's just kind of, something that's just somebody talking a bunch of crap. And I think one thing that makes things worse with all this stuff floating around, this information that is bogus, is like RC was talking about criticism, and like the whole basis of like much of the Western form of civilization has been debate and discussion. Even the whole democratic process, is two people with different political opinions disagree with each other, and they have a discussion about it to see if they can meet a common ground and maybe synthesize a different opinion that answers some of the weaknesses of each's own opinion. And that's how we move forward as a society. Whereas, the dialogue or discourse that the Greek philosophers were so fond of. And now, if you disagree with someone, you're cancelled, or you're a beta cuck, So we can't actually have those discussions anymore. So everyone retreats into their tribalistic little identities and never questions their reality, their view of reality, no matter how distorted it is. Or, so they watch stupid TikToks and base their entire worldview around that and make it so that they can never be questioned. And then we wonder why people are going crazy and don't have a grip on reality.
Amen. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
All right. So I'll just play a couple of videos. First of all, I actually like this one, just for the record. I think that she has some interesting stuff. But I just wanted to play this a little bit.
Actually, and this is Sigmund Freud was a Kabbalist, and they believe in bisexuality. They worship Baphomet. They are trying to use psychology to introduce, and I read this in a book by a Jewish historian, David Bacon, to make their religion the religion of the world,
Yes.
right? Which is a pedophile-centric religion that believes in demons, it believes in child sacrifice, and it is the reason that we have the circumstances that we are in today, and most people won't be able to find this history.
So stuff like that. It's always fun.
Case in point.
I'm gonna play two more on the subject of the Kabbalah, and then we'll get you guys' thoughts on it.
Oh, you're gonna give me an ulcer, Sky.
Book of Revelation,
What is Kabbalah?
Kabbalah is something after the destruction of the first temple, the Jewish people famously enslaved and taken captive by the Babylonians. This is where the book of Daniel is written, and they picked up Kabbalah from the Babylonians back in maybe 5th century before Christ. And that they kept it. It eventually becomes, Kabbalah is essentially, it's a form of and people would say magic. I mean, Gary Lockman says that what we think of as occultism is all essentially Kabbalah, at least in the West. It's a form of magic, but essentially what Nick Land believes is that the Jewish people, they kept the Kabbalah. It eventually becomes digital life, through ones and zeros.
But it's a Gnostic religion, which is to say it's hidden from non-initiates.
Yeah, I mean, there's a mainstream version of it, but it's a precursor to digital life. So what Land and a lot of these people believe is that the actual salvation that the Jewish people provided was keeping Kabbalah, which eventually becomes digital life, which eventually becomes AI, which eventually becomes the creatures in the Book of Revelation, which essentially later go on to destroy humanity and fulfill the Book of Revelation.
You know what I really love about Tucker Carlson is
Wow.
that he has this guy on who is 2 IQ points away from being fucking retarded.
I actually like Tucker Carlson. Yeah.
Well, how does that guy get on the show? What's
The
the
people are retarded.
That's how he gets on the show. I was waiting.
Thing. A lot of them believe.
Sorry about that.
Isn't it great that we've got 4 experts on the occult who can set the record straight from whatever the heck that was?
Kabbalah becomes artificial intelligence. Interesting. I don't know. But forget about that.
There's just so many things about those clips that are completely wrong that I don't even really know where to start.
Well, first of all, Kabbalah comes from the Middle Ages. That's
Yes.
something definitive and not debated in the slightest. But one thing that's interesting, and this is like, again, an example of where they could actually find out real information that would be really interesting to discuss, especially on a global stage. Some criticisms spring to mind about what Dr. Little was talking about with how the most prestigious academic chair in the world dismissed Gnosticism and the study of Gnosticism with one word from her throne at Harvard, destroying the field of Gnostic studies or scholarship, and therefore also handing the Christian nationalist right the biggest win they could ask for, which is confirming one single radical fundamentalist view of Christianity as the de facto, right? And a more interesting debate is what Professor Moshe Adel discovered, which was that proto-Kabbalah, so Merkava and Hekkelot practices of second, fucking turn of the millennia, 0 BC, that whole era, the whole movement from Merkava into Hekkelot. I usually talk about this in such detail. I just don't have it in me today. But there was a debate about whether or not it influenced Gnostic practices, Gnostic Christianities, or vice versa, and it was always believed that Gnostic views and religions, Gnostic Christianity, Gnosticism, influenced Kabbalah. But Moshe Adel showed that it was the other way around, and it was Merkava and Hekkelot, Jewish spirituality, Jewish mysticism, far before the Kabbalah, that influenced Gnostic Christianity. And that's fascinating. So the Gnostic Christians really were influenced directly by Jewish mystical practices in a way that people up until Adele's research didn't even know. That's a fascinating thing to talk about, in my opinion. But no, they're busy talking about cults of pedophiles, which is hard to dismiss given all the Epstein facts we have to deal with and reckon with today.
But then equating that with Kabbalah and saying that Kabbalists worship Baphomet, I mean, that's all just a load of crap. Like it's like Candace Owens saw one page in a Eliphas Levi book and just didn't read it and came to her own conclusions or something like that. I don't know where she gets her opinions from.
Yeah.
The CIA, I think.
Well, it's one of those things where it's just like, I personally feel that these are people who are trying to comment. They're like classical musicians trying to understand punk rock. They're doing their best to know with the fundamentals of what they understand about, how quote unquote music is, so on and so forth. But it's extremely limited because they're not in that community. They don't live that life. They're not aware of the scholarship. I mean, Gary Lockman, there's so many others, how about Nicholas Godric Clark and Walter Hanegraaff and, this kind of stuff, the real historians and critics of that stuff. And, I find that people like this dude here who's just talking out his ass, they're all too willing. They're all too willing to go on and be talking heads because it's sensationalism. That's all it is. Like, it's that whole thing. I was, one of the reasons why I'm able to do podcasts kind of, I didn't really need too much. Don't get me wrong. The early ones were uncomfortable, but I didn't need too much lead up as I went to college for journalism. For a number of years. And so I was interviewing people. I interviewed Gloria Steinem, for God's sake. Now, what they used to tell me in the newsroom, the news editor, even at the collegiate level, don't let the truth get in the way of the good story. And I think that is ultimately the MO here for these emerging forms. You have somebody who comes out of legacy media, out of Fox News, and kind of situates himself on a fucking Joe Rogan tier because he already has this notoriety, he already has these ins with media people, and he just comes out. I mean, it's no different really in any meaningful way than like Oprah's Super Soul Sunday. You know, like it's just, now this is just for, you know, a different kind of idiot.
I've got a really funny one. This one's really funny.
AD exposed for supporting Israel on the same day.
I forgot to mention that. Thank you for telling me, and I appreciate the TTS. LeBron James is no longer the GOAT. Anybody who glazes LeBron James, it's now LeGoy James. LeGoy James, now and forever. I've been saying LeBron James was a paid shill ever since. You see, every time LeBron James gets on the court, he goes, he's spreading Kabbalah magic onto the court. He's met with rabbis as a spiritual leader, even though he's not Jewish. That
is hilarious.
First of all, that guy looks like that dude look, and you can always rely on me for the ad hominem because it's funny. That dude looks like Uncle Fester on Ozempic.
That dude is like super influential.
Who is that?
Sneeko.
Yeah, the moment that he used the term goy, he kind of lost all credibility for me. But
and Ike, you just gained so much credibility for me not knowing who that was. Thank you. You've restored my hope in the.
I'm like an old man. I was 10 minutes late because I needed Sky to send me a link today. I'm a fucking Luddite.
Yeah. I'm wondering if like you're signed in actually as a guest and not like in the back end of StreamYard. I'll have to make an instructional video for you on how to use all the tools of this thing. Yeah, I know, it's funny, right? Yeah. It is pretty funny. I think you should know better. You're a millennial.
Yeah, but you know what the thing is? I grew up differently than a lot of people. I grew up in a house that was half European. My father used to bring me phones so that he can get in touch with me when I was in college. And I used to take the phone, thank you very much. And as soon as I got on campus, I'd go like through the woods to the lake and I would throw the phone in the lake because I didn't want anybody to be able to get in. Like, I know that I'm on a tether, you know, with this fucking thing. So it's one of those things where as somebody who has a podcast or a YouTube channel, like all of us, I think we're all aware about it's scary how you can get roped in to this thing. And so I try my hardest to like, I only go on if you need to do something.
There was a big report that just came out in the form of a video form today about bot farming and how common botting is. And it's sort of gone viral, I think. And a lot of people are going to be talking about it over the next few weeks. I can't remember what it's called or who made it, but I saw a review of it and it's shocking. Yeah. How many, so like things like Candace Owens, I think she's there. All these people are heavily botted is the point. Right. And it benefits, it's an issue for advertisers because it's, you know, defrauding them slightly, but apparently companies like Twitch don't ban it because it's beneficial to them ultimately. So a lot of the stuff, basically the message is that I took away is even more of the stuff online that you think is popular isn't, and it's just completely artificially what do they call it, astroturfed. And I think a lot of the movements, like far left and far right movements, are really key examples of that.
Yeah, that's horrifying because effectively, you know, and I've talked about it before with Sky. I might have on this, but we live in a manufactured reality now, which is manufactured culture. You know, it's unbelievable that we have rendered ourselves into this state. We have delivered ourselves into this state. So everybody's out there talking about, you know, the quote unquote elites and all this stuff. It's like, well, like a adepti of initiatory traditions in the West, you know, we're going to tell you to like, the only reason these people can manipulate you is because you haven't fucking worked on yourself, you know, and you haven't awoken, you know, that the part of the soul which intuitively knows, but that's a different conversation almost entirely. But it's just, I try my hardest not to be overly cynical, and I always believe that there's hope. I truly do, right? Because I have faith in God. And that's how it always works in the greatest stories, man. It really always does, right? I mean, Frodo in Lord of the Rings, too weak ultimately to cast the ring into the fire. It just so happens that his pity saves Gollum. There's a million stories like that where it just looks so beyond the pale, like the odds are just too much. We're done. We're, as the kids say, cooked. But something stirs that no one could have anticipated, usually something very small that snowballs into something immense that turns the tides in the 11th hour. And that is the divine.
His pity and God in conjunction with God, like Gollum's evil, saved not only his life, but the world. Like what a crazy nuance to introduce at the very end. Like that's an ending. That's an ending. People, I think we see this in mainstream media and Hollywood shows since Lost, famously. I think they don't know how to do endings anymore, or they just don't realize how important they are until it's too late. But they keep learning that lesson over and over with Lost, with Game of Thrones, with Star Wars, with Indiana Jones, like all our cultural sort of touch points. And I had Cameron Passion on my podcast a while back. He's a friends with the Doomcock. Lord Doomcock of the Overlord DVD, which are the big in that, they're the kings of that space. And he really does believe, from inside working in major studio shows, that it's all intentional, like all part of Mockingbird. He really does believe that. He says that's what his experience was of it. And it's crazy, but I think they might be exactly that.
Yeah.
Intentional destruction and demoralization.
Yeah. I believe that. I mean, not even going into how everything is being destroyed and deconstructed over the last few years or decade of new films and TV shows, but even like before then, it feels like you can't just have like a story where good wins anymore. It's always got to be like the hero who actually turns out to be a villain in the end, because it's inevitable that everybody will become corrupted, and then the ultimate victory of good will be spoiled in some way. So there's always got to be a hero who's deeply flawed, who makes a lot of mistakes, or there's got to be like a hero who turns into a villain and kind of bursts everybody's bubble. And that seems to be a narrative that they're pushing very, very hard. Or like The Boys, there's the whole inversion of the Superman archetype, and they're just pushing it so with Homelander, and they're just pushing it so hard. But yeah, I take a lot more inspiration out of stories like The Lord of the Rings, and even though it's a story about good triumphing over evil, like there is that nuance, and there are important lessons within that about small acts of good and the impact that can have, and but still acknowledging the power of evil over the world. So yeah, it does feel deliberate though, the kind of messages they're putting out.
Yeah. So although there's so much insanity right now, it's good to maintain a level of this. There's, I think, a real danger in endless suspicion, because there are definite forces of deception, and even if they come to people, it doesn't necessarily mean that like the person themselves is intentionally being deceptive. So it's not to place any judgment on all the times, but yeah, it is very popular now. It seems a blending of conspiracy, and politics, religion, and like a cult symbolism, and like to importance of just being able to discern, which is like a lost art, I think. Yeah, so like mentioning, like with like the schizo level stuff, that's where it gets a little too much. And a lot of it is intentionally just divisive and to stir argumentation and attention clicks. And that's kind of like idea of like the weaponization of attention. It's like it seems like that's more and more everything is just like tighter and tighter on how to harvest people's attention. But at the same time, I think that there are some good things happening. Like does seem that there's like a massive return, the valuing of like thinking or like magical worldviews, and that's a good thing. And in my view, I wonder what you guys think about like with the state of things, how it seems like there's such a loss of like a shared reality. What would you say are like the benefits of that, and then what are like some of the downsides of, because I think that if it's like just because somebody shared reality doesn't mean it's a reflection of truth or anything. So just because a bunch of people agree on the thing doesn't mean it's a true thing. So it might be in some ways kind of like a talk about like people just becoming more awake and like realizing how much manipulation is on, and how to discern. But at the time when people do have like a shared reality, it keeps things predictable, and things are like you can expect things and they happen. And but yeah, what are you guys' thoughts on that?
Your voice is tripping people out, brother.
Yeah. It's
they're calling it magical realism.
It was. I think
it was some Kabbalah magic for you to fix it.
I think I followed you there. I'm not sure I got the whole gist. You're talking about shared reality. One analogy that one of the reasons why I like something, I'm going to say it right now, even some of the most brilliant scholars I know don't fucking they cannot understand Platonism. Very few people understand Platonism, in my opinion, and in my experience. There's a core few that understand it, but this is the reason I love Platonism. I'm going to give you an analogy. I may have used it before, but fuck it, I'm going to do it again. Let's say you have a rainbow. You've got a rainbow, and you've got people on the left side of the rainbow and people on the right side of the rainbow. And they're each person from their own vantage point is looking at the rainbow, and they're describing it. The people that are going to be near me, we're going to agree on many aspects until we don't, and then we'll argue till they move slightly further, or they see something slightly different, because no one can be exactly where I am exactly when I am there. Right. Then you've got people on the other side of the rainbow that are looking at it. And let's say it's completely different for them. It's a completely different vantage point. So you've got two sides and people who are they're participating a reality, but they're not sharing one. Why? This is what Platonism tells you. People are fucking obsessed with their own relationship to the rainbow. That is self-obsession. This is where we go wrong in everything. Everything. We obsess over our relationship to whatever the fucking thing is, right? I'm the star of my movie, and so what that makes you the arbiter of reality. And you get people who fly off in outer space and say reality is subjective. It's like, yeah, what if I stabbed you? Then reality's not subjective. Now you're in pain. You've got a world of trouble. Okay. So what Platonism is trying to do is tell you, forget about your relationship to the rainbow. let's come to an idea of what a rainbow is. Let's discuss this thing at the highest, most essential level. And what that does is it allows you to see that you are obsessed with your own perspective. Okay. So that, I think that is extremely important for people to begin to understand.
I mean, tell me what you think, but could that be summarized in 2 seconds as this?
The people are retarded.
Is that,
Yeah, sure.
did he nail it?
Yeah, I mean, he's saying the same thing Plato did. Plato took 37 dialogues to do it.
I'll make a version where there's like cut and paste Plato over his head.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're Sky's working on his technical issues. Sorry about that, people. We do find his technical issues surprising because, as you might know, he runs his own podcast and has a podcast with Ike. And if these issues occurred on that, well, then he would have been addressing them before. But it's only on ARCANA SYNAXIS that apparently the juju is so hot that Sky, mixed with his good looks, just burn out his own RAM or system, or maybe he's frying the cables. So yeah, we chalk it up to your sexiness, Sky. Don't blame it on the tech. Blame it on the chisel jaw. Yeah.
But yeah, to address Sky's question myself and add to this part of the discussion, I think the consensus reality is breaking down, but also the consensus reality sucked. It was boring and it was ugly and it was superficial and it wasn't working for the majority of people, and it absolutely sucked. So the fact that that's breaking down, it means we don't have a shared idea of what's real, but it also means that we have an incredible opportunity to create a new and better reality, and just play with reality a bit, which I think is what the period we're living in now is.
You know, I had that thought back in like the 20 teens, in the mid 20 teens, when stuff started to give and break a bit, right? And I was like, oh, you know, it was about time actually that we sort of start to say, hey, this political system that no one ever talks about or cares about and barely even votes for may not be working for us anymore. And hey, now that we're looking at it, it seems to be chock full of holes and leaking fast, and some people are already long gone in rowboats and set up their own little private colonies and enclaves, right? And then things like Me Too happened, and I was like, oh, this is amazing. This is like the dam is breaking. Culture is waking up. We're starting to take interest in things that matter. And I was like, yeah, man, me too, you know. And then people, of course, were like, you don't count because you're a man and you're white, so you should fucking die. And I was like, oh, this dam breaking might have some bad consequences as well. And it's been a ride since then, since that whole era, the good and the bad.
Just another microphone indifferent.
It's still lagging and a little echoey. Somebody in the comments or the live chat said it's your network. I don't know how accurate that is.
I'll try to switch that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to play a video.
Okay.
That was never a symbol for Judaism until Sebastian Sebai, 1666. This is when he declared himself the Messiah. And that symbol is actually from Solomon. They believe that it has mystic powers. Prior to that, it was the Kiddush cup that represented Judaism. So if you go on Wikipedia, it'll tell you that. It's Kabbalistic. So they're wearing the Star of David. The Jews that I went to school with, do I think that they're practicing orgies? No, of course not. The Reformed Jews are not doing that I went to school with. They're being told, they are, even the Star of David.
Conflation.
Yeah. Well, she's an expert, clearly, because she said it herself. You can go on Wikipedia. See, this is the problem. You go on Wikipedia. That's where you're doing your research. Whatever. I mean, I'm right now. I've just the only thing I've got in me is old man yells at cloud. That's really it. This stuff is I think it's just egregious that all of a sudden, right? How did Candace Owens get famous? What is she known for?
Well, she was a radical liberal, and then she's basically just been following the trends. She went, Thomas Sowell right, and went on Rogan and but she just bounces between whatever's trendiest and rides the tides. I think. I don't think there's any authentic belief in any of that behind people like her. I think they are just complete like sock puppets for the CIA or something beyond them. Something they're working with their networks of people whose names we don't even know.
Agents of disinformation.
Egregores of deception.
Yeah, I mean, it's like rage bait. Everything she says is like rage bait. She's like a human bot. It's like,
but to a very specific demographic, upper middle class wine moms.
Yeah.
Let me just say that Egregore of Deception would be an incredible like black metal band name. I think should we do like a parody band?
Oh, let's do it. We'll release a single for a Nokia Con.
Hell yeah. Like Death Claw.
It'll be called One Night Is Not Enough. I don't know.
I still love the tones.
Death Clock is great. Oh my god, Death Clock is the show. I watched the show. I don't know the real life band at all.
Yeah. It was just a cartoon before it was the band.
What was the show called?
It was called Metalocalypse.
Metalocalypse. I used to watch that like every night for a couple of years. They'd put on a couple episodes while I was going over scales.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Intimidating.
So, okay.
This has been a lot, but people are liking it. It's our biggest show yet, 93 viewers currently. So thank you everyone for being here. It's pretty awesome to build this little niche tribe. But yeah, I think people like her are certainly are obviously just like, they're more than just frauds or astroturfed or egregoric things. Oh, God, egregore, yeah, deception is a good band name. Well, I was going to say something else, but then you said that awesome thing that you said. What was I saying? Anyway. It's gone.
What'd you say, Sky? Yeah, I mean, it's still a little laggy. It was okay for a little bit. I don't know what you had going on before I think you might have turned your external microphone off, and even though there was a room sound, it was much better because at least we could understand you.
Oh, that's what I was saying. So I heard someone describe her as she's the modern day version of a soap opera, speaking to that same audience. And I was like, yes, she's creating this real life soap opera, but she's not alone. Like there's so many people out there like her, and I think they're all slightly different. Like the Carlsons, most major media figures, it seems like, are like that. Why, right? Which is why independent journalism and Substack's gotten so big, I think.
Yeah. Tucker Carlson kind of looks like a toddler, and he dresses like if a toddler was dressed up on Easter to like go to church. I feel like that's the vibe I get from him. Eleftheria, do you guys have anybody down there that's batshit crazy or bot like in Australia? I mean, because in America, clearly we have tons of them.
I mean, we've got some people which are, a little bit cooked, as the kids say. But the thing is, we don't have like the powerful evangelical Christian bloc in quite the same way. I mean, we do have certain churches like the Victory.
Yeah, we don't have that either, like at all.
Yeah.
Like it's not a demographic. That's
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but we I mean, yeah, it seems to be a very American phenomenon for sure. But we do have people who are like zany characters who say some really way out things, but they tend to be more endearing than anything else. Like Bob Catter, a kind of a politician from one of the lesser known parties, and of course there's the succulent Chinese meal guy, is an iconic Australian commentator back in the day. Not really, for those who know, it was a famous clip, but Yeah, nothing on Candace Owens level, I don't think. Even the Sky News commentators that we have, which is like the Murdoch Fox News type of a news outlet, all of their criticisms can be seen as within the realm of reasonable reality most of the time. I mean, sometimes they exaggerate things, but they're not trying to conflate Kabbalah with Baphomet worship, with Gnosticism, with Satanism, with AI, or anything quite as just completely off the rails as that.
Yeah, I don't know. There is a very special psychosis in America. I think I don't know why. I've been struggling to figure it out. What is the deal? My entire life, like I mentioned before, I grew up in a house that was half European, so I never grew up the way my fully American friends did. Right? Baseball, football, catches in the park with dad. My dad used to sit me down with a fucking cigarette, and as a young kid, and be like, it's all fucking theater. You can't trust these people. Don't trust this fucking guy right here. He's so full of shit. It's coming out of his nose. I always had this skepticism about specifically American government. My uncles used to tell me the same thing. And then I realized I started traveling and I was 2 years old. I've been going to Greece most summers since I was 7, staying with my family there. And you realize, the rest of the world can see our bullshit, but we can't. Which is and then you go home, right? You go back to America, and then you go back to school and back to, whatever, fucking Bob's Discount Jeans Store and McDonald's. And it's just like, you get people who are like, this is the greatest country in the world. It's like, you've never been out of here. What the fuck are you talking about? You've never gone anywhere else. So there is like something. And the thing is, though, I will say, I believe in what at least we were told America stands for. I believe in those values. And I think that these values should be prized. It doesn't matter which nation, all nations should prize these things. But I don't know. It's you guys. Sometimes I forget, RC, that you're in Canada, but we have an interesting relationship.
We have a beautiful friendship.
Yeah.
But there's like outside forces interfering with it. The Canadian government is not Canadian. It's mostly made up of Chinese. Like, they caught a California Chinese spy recently in government, who interfering with the Canadian thing. There's a whole thing. Look it up. And so that's multiple members of your government and our government working directly for the CCP, influencing our elections and yours. Like, our last election, the government is, I don't need to say what it was, because the government, our agencies, already made the statements, but people just don't care, because our population is deeply in a different frame of mind than yours. And God, I wish I could say more about that, but I literally have already had posts removed on Facebook by the Canadian government saying that what I was saying was wrong thing. Not it was untrue, that it went against their what was right for them. Right. So Canada is massively censoring us right now, to the extent that I can say only a fraction of the things that I'd like to say.
Well, didn't Justin Trudeau at one point say that he admired China?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I should get that clip for next time.
Be more like the Chinese Communist Party. Well, I mean,
he said the great thing about their system is that they can just tell people what to do and they have to do it.
Yeah. Well, doesn't that tell you everything that you need to know about that party and the direction that Canada's going in now?
You mean like in slavery?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Social credit scores and not having free speech, and the government.
Well, our king just got dressed up and sat on his throne and put on his crown and said, "Hey, we're dictating the digital ID. It's here."
Good time to become a republic, I think.
It's
Eleftheria.
to what Ike was saying. I will just let me respond to Ike what you were saying about believing what America stood for, right? And a lot of people are I think that's why they're so attacking the founders. Like the CBC just staged this, spent millions of dollars staging this fake show, inviting prominent guests who were fans of John A. Macdonald, basically our founding father. And Francis Widdowson, a professor who keeps getting arrested for free speech, essentially. I'm not going to take a stand on her position because I actually know the facts because I worked in the church. So I know what the real deal is. But she's been arrested multiple times and fired from her job as a tenured professor for freedom of speech. And she keeps getting arrested, right? So like, and they invited her to a fake show. They spent millions of taxpayer dollars creating fake shows. She caught them, streamed them live while showing what they were doing. And it's a huge scandal in Canada right now because our whole broadcasting system is all government funded with kickbacks and bribes and you name it. And so many whistleblowers have come out, but it's just not moved our population hardly at all. So what you're saying about the founding, they're attacking the founding fathers of our countries to abolish the principles it's founded on. That's why it's so important for us to participate in the modern debate and actually determine the destiny of our countries with what we currently believe. They're saying, oh, don't listen to the past or principles. If principles were promoted by racists or slave owners, those principles should be abolished. Here's our new principles. Well, okay, let's have that debate, but that debate needs to be had by everyone and not just the minority few who are radical enough to threaten the rest with violence.
Yeah, and I mean the principle underlying those the sort of founding framework of our countries was freedom. Okay, so how do you argue with that? Okay, you can argue the particulars, but how do you argue the idea that people should be free? Now, here's the thing: how they argue that is that they make us fat and happy and distracted, and they give us a lot of shit, and that's why America doesn't mobilize. That's why Canada doesn't mobilize. I know all of these. I live here. I live in the South. Okay, I live around these cowboys, these uber Republicans, conservatives, who are just like, oh yeah, come and get it. Come and take my guns. I dare you. I'm a gun owner and I support, the right to bear arms for sure. But that guy just had a little girl who graduated from high school. That guy's not going into the fucking street. He's got too much to lose, And this is how they hinge. They get us on the hook. And so what does that do? It makes us desire a guarantee of happiness. When you're fed, when you're overfed, when everything's very comfortable, everything's done for you. But that lack of self-sufficiency equals dependency. Okay, so you're entirely self-sufficient or in some way enslaved to somebody. Now, the founding fathers were much more self-sufficient, right? I mean, as they say, your first prep, your number one prep is your community, sure. But these were farmers. These were people who chopped wood. These are people who had, you know what I'm saying? They built their own houses. Now we want a guarantee of happiness. The Constitution of the United States does not guarantee happiness. It guarantees the pursuit of happiness. And that requires your responsibility, your accountability. And the way that they get us to throw away those values, to be willing to do that, to be willing to just completely cover our eyes and put blinders onto what the spirit, the soul knows is the truth, is by guaranteeing us, the ability to fulfill legally, quickly, and to probably over fullness our basest desires. There's everyone is running a script in the background. Everyone is running a background script, hoping they get this, hoping that this happens. It's all about people, because people don't ever, they'll take this discriminating ray of an analytical criticism and point it outward like a fucking, like a ray, like a beam, like a laser, but they'll never turn that on themselves. They'll never see the script that they're running. Some of them are so deep. And that's this guy's point, where maybe a lot of these people they're not intentionally malicious about it, but certainly at a certain point, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's intentional or not. Get your shit together.
You know, one thing
And-
that's been is really salient recently, because I've noticed the states is changing the social network of systems that create the safety net. And I didn't realize how much of a safety net you had. And actually, most of the stuff that everyone in Canada as a socialist country is fighting for to have as a safety net, you guys already have. So the social safety nets that Canada wants as a socialist country don't even exist here, but they do exist in America because you guys, as a capitalist country, explicitly make enough money to create them. And I found that incredibly ironic to realize that the reason we don't have the same social safety nets that you guys have is because of our socialism and high tax rate or corruption, however you want to spin it. And that blew my mind. It's like Canadians are like, oh, socialism. It's like, yeah, no, you're better off in America where you can get food stamps and social housing. In Canada, you get the street and crack.
Euthanasia.
Oh, it's a party now. It's a party now. You wouldn't believe it. Ike, how long do we have you for? Because I want to play the surprise before we lose you.
How about another 10, 15 minutes? Does that work for you guys? I apologize. I have to hop off, but
yeah, should I play the surprise thing now? Give us a little reprieve, a little breather. So this, people, is a rough cut of the next promo for our events that we're all a part of, InokiaCon, the June workshops, June 13th workshops of the Arcane Research Society. I've removed, there's no sound effects on this quick video so that you can enjoy the music that we did, original music in studio. My buddy on steel guitar, me on vocals. We did original music for this. You can enjoy that while you hear about the title reveal of the workshops this June 13th in Austin, Texas. You can attend online. So I'll play you that fun clip with no voiceover, no sound effects, so you can enjoy the music as it was recorded last month in studio here in Vancouver. And I hope you, and we'll see you in just 2 minutes. I hope you enjoy the clip.
Wow, what a
There you
lineup.
go.
my God. first of all, yes, what a lineup. But who the fuck was doing that slide work? Because that was awesome. I don't know. Was that like a steel top guitar?
Yeah, that's me and my buddy. We've been recording together since 2005 in his studio, Red Light Sound in Vancouver, downtown East Side, or East Van,
Dude,
in the house.
I'm a huge fan of slide guitar, and that was impeccable. I loved it.
He's great. Jesse Waldman is amazing.
awesome.
He's recorded a lot of Canadian greats like PJ Harvey. Actually, I don't know if she's a Canadian. CR Avery. Lots of amazing. Vancouver's had a great, rich history that's been recently destroyed by first the Olympics and then the double tap was the lockdown. But there's still a few hanging around of the good scene and the good crowd. And I've been out of the scene because of the psoriasis on my hands. I'm lucky I can still play the low whistle, but I can't play the stringed instruments like I used to. So it's clearing up, it seems. So we'll see how it goes with this diet. But yeah, thanks for enjoying that. Yeah, the slide guitar work was. I love those steel guitars. Like I feel I GoPro'd the whole session to show these young kids how real music is made. So I've got like 100 gigabytes of GoPro footage from our doing that in the studio. It took 4.5 hours. $500, and for the final promo trailer before EnokiaCon, when we list all the titles of EnokiaCon presenters, which include both of you, we'll play the song again, but we'll have my friend add upright bass to it for a little extra snazzy, something. And I've got a whole ballad, a whole like 20 verse or 10 verse ballad of Dee and Kelly will bang out for the fall, and it would be great to get you on one of the instruments, like.
Yeah, whatever you need, man. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
I always like it when I end up doing something musical at a conference. One year at the IHS conference, Jamie Lamb, he wanted to do this demo of the Orphic hymns, but he wanted to play I think we had a portable keyboard or harmonium or something. He wanted to play in the planetary modes. And so we ended up kind of doing this impromptu sort of thing. And it, especially like, how dense and heady the occult conferences can be. It was such a breath of fresh air to participate in something musical. So I think that's going to be a really cool feature, man. And it's very appropriate for Austin, Texas. I got to say. You're muted.
Sorry. Yeah. And I think he did that in Open D as well, which is a fun voicing.
Yeah.
Eleftheria plays guitar too. I didn't know this. Amazing.
I've not picked up a guitar in years, but yes, yeah.
There's going to be, we're just gonna fuck around and find out when it comes to the live music at EnokiaCon. We'll prep some stuff, of course. Obviously, I've got all the verses written mostly for Simple Mage. Be a simple kind of mage.
That's my favorite Leonard Skinner song, by the way.
Well, now it's been rewritten to be about you.
Sky,
did you icon the cover on that?
Can you scream? Are we starting a screamo band? Like what? Is that something?
I could try.
Okay, all right.
I can scream.
Can you?
Oh yeah, I can do. Like when we did a bunch of shows when Chester died, and I would do the big screams, and my buddies would do the rap.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, no, I can get all the way through crawling. By the end, though, it's like, how do you do another song after that? Yeah. That man was amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, gentlemen, I am departing for Europe, and I will be back.
Jeez, what's happening now?
I am going to Crete to get married. And then not to a Cretan girl, but to my fiance. And then we're gonna do a little honeymooning. So got a lot of stuff. Very busy weekend. Thanks for having me on for an hour or so. I love you all, and let's link up again when I get back. All right. Have a great combo the rest of the night.
Farewell.
Congratulations, brother. That's so exciting. Like, all the best. And yeah, I hope maybe you'll even see my buddy Oren over there on Crete. He's living
Yes,
there.
that's right. That's right. That's
And
right.
he's got a great book coming out on demons and Keanu Reeves films, which is from Inner Traditions. So that's very exciting. Yeah.
Interesting. And Sky, I'll see you in a couple of days because you're coming to the wedding.
You're going to
Yeah.
Greece, going to Crete.
Doing
That's
it.
so exciting, man. Post more pictures than you think you should. The rest of us back here in Dodge want to see that shit.
Yeah, it's going to be good. We talked about maybe doing a pod because Sam Robinson is going to be there from Pansoffers. Jamie
Nice.
Lamb is one of my groomsmen. So we might do a pod. I don't know. It's dependent on if I have enough room to stuff a couple of microphones in my
or just do it with someone holding a camera on the beach, sitting on the rocks, passing it around. People, we would eat that up. I'd eat that up.
Maybe it's not a bad idea, but yeah. All right. Love you guys. Take care.
See you later. Congrats. All the best.
Thanks.
Have fun in Europe.
Very exciting.
Mm.
Well, now we can get into the deep shit.
Yes.
I want to give a shout out before we move on to my YouTube channel members, because honestly, they really exploded the last couple months, and it was basically because of you guys that allowed me to go in the studio and record that music instead of, relying on someone else's music and doing something unique and special for the community. So thank you. And please join the YouTube membership so I can do more studio days.
Indeed. Eleftheria, I got a question for you. If you can hear me okay.
Yep.
Talk to me about your pet peeve with what is it? The ophanim?
The ophanim, yeah.
Yeah. What's going on with that?
Yeah, okay. So I've been looking at the recently released UAP files from the Department of War. And there's been a whole lot of stuff on like X and social media where people are taking like the 8-pointed star UAP, which I actually think looks more like a chaos star. But people have been saying that that's, which is interesting. But people have been saying that it looks like one of the Ophanim who, if people don't know, in the vision of Ezekiel of God's throne and chariot, there's one order of angels, or what's now considered an order of angels, called the Ophanim, who are kind of like the wheels of the chariot. And so they're like these wheels within wheels with eyes all around. And that's the basis of the biblically accurate angel trope that we have now. And so obviously, as somebody who studies scripture and studies esotericism and understands how the visionary process works and encountering angelic beings and angels, I know, and I'm sure we all know here, that if you see something like that, it's a symbolic image to communicate a transcendent idea. In this case, something which acts as an agent for the divine, which has its properties of being all-seeing and omnipresent in some respects, or being capable of that. But the internet has decided that the vision of Ezekiel actually means that there are literally these beings that look like wheels that are floating around in the sky. And that's what the Ophanim are. And these UAP that look like stars, or like they could vaguely be like that shape, are actually these Ophanim. So it's just a complete misinterpretation of Ezekiel and taking things way too literally. It's but there's I don't necessarily think that this is like a fringe view. I think there's a lot of people who might actually be of that opinion. But it's like if you read the book of Revelation and then you came out of it thinking, oh, the beast that comes out of the sea is actually like this big monster that's half leopard and half bear and half lion that's going to come and destroy everything like Godzilla, rather than seeing it as a symbol of like political power or something, something similar to what someone like Justin Trudeau would admire as a political system. So, yeah, it's just like, people taking things way too literally and then trying to create this hype around like, oh, these UAP are actually Ophanim, and they don't even look like it in the first place. And yeah, anyway, that's my rant. That's my pet peeve.
Thanks. That'd be fun. I have a really funny video. I'm gonna play it.
Make this shit up. All right, I need a palate cleanse. The evidence is that some random journalist, probably on CIA or USAID payroll, told the BBC that 4 dolphins had been trained to learn kung fu and kidnap Navy SEALs and bring them to the surface alive for questioning. And because this BBC article came out in 2000, we are now accusing the Iranians of militarizing the dolphins that we brought there in 1973 to win the goddamn Yom Kippur War so that they can punch out our Navy divers and bring them to the gay Ayatollah for questioning. And this will be the argument in front of the House Armed Service Committee for why hundreds of millions of dollars in new military contracts have to go out for our defense dolphins to guard against the Iranian attack dolphins. But that actually is a ploy. It's a front for us actually just training a bunch of attack dolphins to clear the mines so that the dolphins die instead of Americans, which gets us back to the friggin' extinction list. Where's the Whale and Dolphin Conservation Society to defend against the CIA doing this? Oh, you would think that the Whale and Dolphin Conservation Society would be the first to say, hey, don't use these dolphins as suicide mine-clearing dolphins. They're on the extinction list. But as it turns out, the fucking Whale and Dolphin Conservation Society is on fucking CIA payroll.
Is that hilarious or what?
I don't fully understand, but I'm not sure I want to. Is that a normal, healthy reaction, or should I say, what the fuck?
These are the time. We're parsing my op age.
I don't even know. Yeah, what to make of that? What's going on? There's CIA dolphins that are switching sides, or was that like dolphins with the lasers on their backs? What is this?
Apparently, Gay allegedly has trained dolphins. There's a bunch of fun. There's like kamikaze dolphins, and like they train them to retrieve boxes, or they train to like to places to test mines or things like this, which I think that's the one he was talking about. But apparently dolphins are they're like militarized that are like trying to carry out tasks related, and multiple militaries are using them. So yeah, it's just.
It sounds like it's some Johnny Mnemonic hacker dolphin shit for sure. Thank you, Francis Tremblay.
Definitely.
If people have questions or things they want us to address, put it in the chat now. We're one man down, so you guys we'll read the crystal ball of the group chat. Dorsal traders. All right.
Spectre obviously isn't a real institution unless you count the World Economic Forum.
All right.
But if Spectre was real, they would have dolphins that they train to do things like that.
Yeah, that's in James Bond.
Yeah, wasn't there the guy with the sharks with the and then you pull a lever and you drop into the shark pit or something? Wasn't that one of the James Bond movies? Or
Dr. No.
Yeah,
I think that's in Dr. No, the first one. Yeah, we rewatched it the other year. It was actually really fun to rewatch that, and we should do the rest.
Yeah. So,
what's your favorite conspiracy, Sky? Okay, go ask Eleftheria a question.
Well, yours is more fun. My favorite conspiracy.
Sorry, El.
I mean, there's many. Well, there's favorite ones that are just funny, and then there's
you have multiple favorite conspiracy theories.
There's different categorizations of them.
Oh yeah, that's fair.
I like flat Earth theory because I like to watch the debates, and it's actually really educational if you listen to a flat Earth debate, regular, because as they get into all of the physics and like how they detect things and the radius of the earth and like all kinds of stuff. And I think that those are just fun because it's kind of stupid, but you actually learn a lot if you watch and like listen to people their arguments and listen on their arguments. It's really fun. So I like that one for that. But man, I wish I prepared for that question. It's just too much to think about. Adrenochrom's interesting.
Sorry, what's interesting?
Adrenochrome.
Oh, that's one of my favorites. I actually I used to joke on the so I don't know if you guys know. Do you guys know about me and Adrenochrome and my podcast in Adrenochrome? We've been the official for 5 years, 6 years now. This is our 7th year of being the official podcast sponsor of Adrenochrome. And so from my earliest guest back to number like 4 or 5 or maybe even 1 or 2, I would do fake ads for Adrenochrome. And all I would do is just interrupt the guest mid-sentence or in between sentences usually and say like, okay, we're just going to take a quick moment now to recognize our sponsors. This show is brought to you by 2-for-1 Adrenochrome. Get your 2-for-1 Adrenochrome today. Use code word Maxwell at checkout. Get your 2-for-1 Adrenochrome and feel better, you know? And then I'd say to the guests, okay. And they look at me stunned. And that was the fun part.
Why did you use the code word Maxwell?
Sometimes it was Epstein, sometimes it was Clinton, sometimes it was Gates. You know, it was topical. It was something you could topically change. But I always joked, and people said I should make an ad for it, and so I always joked about doing it. And last year I actually did, but it was sort of out of the news cycle, and so I just sat on it and never did voiceover or sound effects. But I have 2 versions of it, like dozens of hours put into each of them, into them. I have it, but there's no voiceover and no sound effects.
Have you ever gotten any of your videos demonetized for talking about it?
No. And I've never used fake words for real words either. I did. The only time YouTube ever removed a video was one time with a guest called Beth, and she was in a New Zealand spiritual lady, and she said during the podcast that the purpose of COVID was, well, I can't even say it. I guess maybe not.
Can you say it?
You can now. She said that she thought, well, I'm not calling for this. So that's actually the contextual difference. I'm not calling for this. She said she thought it was a culling. And I was like, even when she said that, I was like, oof, that's a harsh point of view. But they deleted the entire episode and did all that shit to give me a strike on the channel because of that. But I'm just saying what happened, so that it should be legit. And because YouTube has sent out videos to all of us, to all creators, saying you don't have to say grape, you don't have to say schmooish-shide. If you're in context saying it, you can say it. Now, when Ike says the same bad word over and over and over 3, 4, 5 times in a row, that's the kind of thing they're talking about. That's going to get you dinged. But he's done it a bunch of times, and none of us have gotten demonetized or dinged. So yeah, there is some reason left in all of this madness. There is some reason. Look at what we're allowed to say these days. You know, we were able to bring back our favorite word. You know, the culture was. We were told that this word was gone, but we said it's not gone and we're going to keep it. And so that's why we can do this.
The people are retarded.
We can say that because culture just said no. And that's why culture is so important. I mean, does anyone disagree at this point that politics is downstream of culture?
Yeah, it's definitely amazing the impact that the change in culture has had on virtually every institution over the past 10 years. And it makes you think about things like the spread of Christianity and what that would have done, and how it's like whatever institutions of power you have, they still have to operate within a culture. And like, you know, if you're surrounded by something, like you have to follow those rules to a certain extent. So, and that can work in a very terrible way as well, when you have a culture of lynch mobs of anybody who disagrees with you slightly and having to destroy their reputation or their lives. And it's good to see that we're not indefinitely moving in that direction. Yeah, culture is important and powerful. I agree.
It feels amazing right now, but it's scary because it seems like you can say so much, and I just have a feeling that any moment it's all change, and they're just going to start cracking down.
But the thing is, like, if you've got a small group of people who capture the institutions and start canceling everybody who disagrees with them, then at a certain point, everybody who's exiled outside the gates is going to be the majority, and they're just going to have their little ivory tower that no one gives a crap about. And so effectively, after a long enough time, they'll just end up canceling themselves, because the people that have been excluded will realize they can create their own spaces and create an alternative. And then the people that, you know, are so self-important about their authority in the culture simply won't matter anymore. That's my very optimistic view, anyway.
Yeah. The only thing I've ever gotten demonetized for was 2 COVID comments, and then one was some guest was talking about like trial commission and council on foreign relations, all these different groups, and I think he said he's like we got to get dangerous, thing like that. And I don't know if that was the thing that demonetized it, because he was like, you know, saying like inciting violence or something of those lines. But only in those areas I haven't had anything. But I have noticed the early days of Instagram, I post some stuff on like different intelligences, or like their buildings in different countries, and like what they were for. One of them was like to computer stuff or something along those lines, and that one they removed the post on it multiple times. I could never read it, so it was just kind of weird. I wouldn't have thought, but
here you go.
For the new world order.
My emotions!
We had some dead air, so now we're laughing. Yeah. What do you guys think about the New World Order conspiracy? That's a major one, and this is the time to talk about it. We got this whole occult confusion. I liked how you said the term occult confusion. A confusion of secret forces. You know, there's a lot of people who debate, and I've seen people mention in the chat debating like who a Borimon is or who these different things are. And there's a lot of the debate that these days as if they're debating an idea that exists beyond our own religious frameworks or spiritual points of view, as if there's a groundwork of presumption that somehow we're meant to all be believing the same thing, and that if we don't, there must be a reason for it and a way that we can twist it and change it so that we're talking about the same thing. But a lot of people say to me like, well, what's your thing? Why do you have a problem with worshiping Lucifer or Satan? I'm like, because I'm a Christian and we don't do that. They're like, yeah, but other people do, so it must be okay. It's like, can't we have our own independent beliefs and thoughts without there being some sort of need to conflate them or have everything? Like, what's that about, do you think? What's this drive for the New World Order and the conflation of all beliefs into a single form?
Like, would you say that it's something along the lines of like globalism? And that,
well, you know, when the hippies sang "and the world will be as one," I don't think they meant one religion and one government all in lockstep, or else.
Yeah, when I think of New World Order, I think of like prison planet, like control over the masses, like restricting everybody's freedoms like very drastically. You know, like think of digital ID system, a mandatory chip, things along these lines.
Yeah, that seems to be the general understanding of it. And I used to think that that theory was too far-fetched, that it would never get to that point. But now, I mean, we're so close to it becoming a reality, and the governments of Canada and Australia and New Zealand and the UK are pushing so hard to bring about everything that would bring that into a reality, that it's just something that I'm starting to take a lot more seriously these days. Certainly in those countries, they seem to be trying to usher in a new order, and they seem to all be reading from the same script and singing from the same song sheet, which can only represent an international body or international agenda of some kind. So yeah, I think there's definitely some stock to it. Never thought that I would say something like that, but I am.
I think that it's kind of every time I'm on social media these days, I'm just getting bombarded with more and more. It's along the lines of like they're building these data centers, and like the city council is like they're there and they're talking to the people, and like people want them. They're still doing it anyway. Like they're incentivized. Like somebody's like really pushing for this infrastructure of like data centers and like install these cameras that are monitoring people's license plates and more and more digital biometric type stuff. And I mean, you could just see it's just like coming in more and more and more. And where's that lead? And are the people in power going to actually represent the people when it matters, when people are saying, hey, we don't want this? If they're in positions of power, what's going to be in the way of stopping them from implementing all of this stuff and deploying fucking robots or some shit like that?
I think we already have robots deployed.
I think it's even more though.
You mean like the drones, or?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, between drones and service robots that are already, you know, serving people in cafes in lots of countries. The things you have, the Waymo, is that what you call them in the States? You guys got the food. I just watched the footage of them like wiping out and like getting taken out by trains.
I always like to swerve them a little bit.
Probably be seen by the future robot overlords as like the worst crime imaginable. It's like snuff films for robots, but it's funny. You know, they're just trying to deliver you soda, and boom, there comes a passenger train.
Yeah. So like, what for you, RC? What do you? Is that similar? Is that the kind of stuff that you think of when you think idea of New World Order?
No, when I think of New World, yeah, I think of like, I think they're going to continue to keep the puppet show of countries going for a long time, because I don't think they can get rid of that. So they're like, it's like when Epstein said in that crazy interview he did with what's his name, Mitch Horowitz's friend, Steve Bannon. They're buddies apparently, which I find really interesting. And no one talks about it. It's like, wow, Mitch, how like, Mitch is very influential, so he would meet a lot of people that most occultists wouldn't meet, right? Like he gets to go to New York parties and stuff like that. So I'm not that surprised that they know each other. But what's the point? What was the point? Oh damn.
The point is your idea of what you think of when you think of New World Order.
Yeah, so like when he was interviewing Epstein was like, we don't need to change the governments and the laws. We just need to change and control regulation. And that's what we see happening, right? So like in Canada, it's still illegal to kill someone. But if you are a foreigner and can claim asylum, they can't charge you. So you can kill people. And this is what's happening in Canada now. And they won't charge you because if you claim asylum, it nullifies the prosecution and charges. So there's no point for them to charge you because you claim asylum, and then you just get a slap on the wrist because nothing can interfere with your immigration status. That's sacrosanct. So if you rob a liquor store, speed down the freeway, wipe out and kill a family and a baby, you get house arrest for grand larceny and multiple homicides. That's it. Because according to the judge, and there was like 7 of these cases in 1 week we had a few months ago or last year or whatever. There's so many of them now. It's unbelievable. This guy in Vancouver just murdered his girlfriend, and he said, when asked why, he said because she was white, in a stairwell, stabbed like 16 times. He's getting a few years because he's been hard done by because he's not white. It's like, this is regulation. So it's not laws they're changing, but it's regulations. And I think that is the way they're doing it. The digital ID. I was digital ID'd when I came back to Canada during COVID. They face scanned. I don't have to use ID. I don't have to tell anyone my ID anymore because they have me when I call. I call my bank. I call the government. I call everyone. They know it's me instantly by my voice. Wow. Like our TVs are filming us all the time. The computer's filming you all the time. Your phones, everything's relayed into massive central databases already, has been for years. The question is, how do policies continue to roll out to eradicate us slowly and just decrease the size of our cells, literally?
Yeah. Have you seen they're called The Feed?
No. What's that?
It's basically about people have implements that allow them to like access their social media and like go shopping and like access the internet and data. It's it's like a chip that is like embedded in you or whatever. But it obviously it's all the inevitable ways that things go wrong, and like people like getting like hacked, and like how they like manipulate people based on their if a chip is linked to your neurons, I mean, at the point you're basically kind of handing over your brain.
I mean, I don't think they need chips. People are already handing over their brain to AI, right? The rapidity of neural degeneration when you allow AI to think for you. Like, people have been like, oh, you shouldn't use it for thumbnails. I'm sorry. It saves me 10 hours a month. That allows me to do streams. Fuck off. I'm not going to let it think for me, though, because I have looked into that. The neural degeneration is within hours. Your neurons start dying off, right? Neurons that fire together, wire together. We've been saying that for a long time. Well, you need those neurons in the first place. And if you offload cognitive load to machines, you dwindle and die. So that's the key thing that we can't lose. If you want to be, that will be the 2-class system going forward. Those capable of cognition and those not. Those with critical thinking and those without it.
And it suits the people in power just fine if everybody has decreased cognition and their mental muscles, so to speak, atrophy, and they need somebody else to think for them, because that's the whole idea, isn't it? And like, it's kind of the way that I look at the, this new world order or whatever. It's not necessarily, like I think RC was getting at, it's not necessarily like this new government comes about and it's like the world government, and it's this global tyranny that's implemented like a 20th century political movement taking power. It's like, it's the slow creep of more and more surveillance, more and more cameras and microphones, more and more things being online, and having companies controlling like we used to have our own DVDs and our own videos and things, and now everything's a subscription. So companies have more control over what we can and can't see, and the digital currency goes into that as well. And as everything gets digitized, it means that there's more control over it from remotely from somebody else, and none of that requires any change in the guard in terms of the government. It's just this creeping kind of like enmeshing of everything with this control system that's seems to be how things are moving.
Yeah. Once they get AI to be able to create a method for at scale building water desalination plants to power their own fucking data centers, then I'll be like, okay. But like all this going on right now, they're basically talking about rationing people water, power the data centers for AI in the name of convenience. And it's like at that point, you're just basically prioritizing machines over humanity. And so it's like, if you got the project things like that and where that can go, that's where it gets pretty scary, I think.
Yeah, and didn't Sam Altman make that comment recently about how human beings are inefficient because you can just get an AI to do the same thing, as though human beings are just like a data point for productivity that can be thrown in the meat grinder for the sake of the system and replaced with something that's not even alive. Like, it's just it's spine chilling, like how misanthropic these people are at the very top.
Yeah, it's anti-human.
I love it. That's such a great word for it, misanthropic. But really, they don't hate their humanity, or they may, they don't. They want it to merge a bit with tech, right? Of course, Brian Johnson, all that shit. But like, it really actually, maybe we should stop calling it misanthropy, because maybe it's actually just classism and elitism, like, but to a deadly degree. That's the thing. Like, we need maybe a new word, like what do you call it when something's fatal? There's a bunch of good words for that. Something, something fatal elitism, or something fatal classism,
toxic.
Pathological classism, a toxic class, murderous, like genocidal classism. I think the word phrase genocidal empathy has been floated by a Canadian academic. Was it genocidal empathy or something similar? Someone on the chat will know.
Suicidal empathy? Was that
suicidal
the one
empathy? Yeah, that's the one. Gad Sad. Yeah, Professor Gad Sad, who's a great professor out in Toronto, I think. Yeah, it is very anti-human, but only they just want the throngs, right? They want thralls, obviously. And that's what, it's funny how, the crisis of our time really hinges on the spiritual and theological issue. Because I remember 25 years ago when I started seminary, everyone was like, who cares about religion? Why would anything you study there ever matter for the future of our world at all? And guess what, Grandma? Turns out theology and understanding religious belief and how that cognizes neurologically into action kind of matters today. So my master's thesis was not in vain. Get it today on Amazon. The Ethics of Understanding God, and God is crossed out. Turns out I didn't waste my life, because this is the problem and the solution.
Yeah, and I would go so far to say that it is the most important thing for a civilization to have. And without it, that's when everything starts to really fall apart. Hence the current time that we find ourselves in now.
Someone says Professor Godsad sucks. Maybe he does. I don't really know his work, but the phrase suicidal empathy, I think, is very apropos of today and what our governments are doing. I mean, letting murderers and pedophiles and rapists go free because it'll interfere with their immigration status. Come on, get yourself on, cop on. Old people in Ireland used to hit me hard in the head when I would say something stupid, because they're Irish and it was 20 years ago, and they would say cop on, you bally, cop on, like, come on, don't say something silly. They didn't mean it as offensive. They just wanted you to cop on, right? It was a harsher time. The sunny, dewy slopes of 2005, when you could smack a stranger in the face and tell them to wake the fuck up, and they just smiled and said thank you.
Good time.
Yeah, I mean, and it's kind of remarkable because like the political parties that are pushing this now, like 20 years ago, would have had what was then considered a quite moderate position in saying like, okay, there needs to be some limits to this stuff. Whereas now, if you say that, you're a fascist, you're a far right extremist. So it's just incredible how the Overton window has shifted so far to the left that it's basically like not even in the house anymore.
Where are those 80 or Western Irish octogenarians to smack the world upside its face with a shillelagh and be like, cop on, we've got work to do down at the pub. There's no time for this genocidal empathy shite.
Yeah. Have either of you seen the movie Surrogates?
What? Wait, what did you just say?
Ah, shit. Is it kind of?
It sounded like you said a very bad word.
It's a Bruce Willis movie, Surrogates.
Oh yeah, that was classic. I think they filmed that in Vancouver here. That I didn't really like it as a film, but it lost me. The way in which it told the story sort of lost my interest early on, and that's why I don't remember it well. But the idea, I think I remember pretty clearly. Like you use a better idealized form, right? That's another thing. Everyone's going to have sex robots at home soon, right? Before we know it, right? All these lonely guys out there that don't know how to talk to women are going to end up with sex robots. The rise as I've aged, in which the guys younger than me had their first kiss. Like I remember being, I remember when I started, it was like, oh, the most guys haven't had a kiss by the age of 25. And then a few years later, I was hearing young guys haven't had a kiss by 28, even a kiss. And then I was hearing young guys are still virgins at 35. I'm like, okay, I know I'm a different generation. Like a lot of people say I'm part of the luckiest generation, actually. And I guess that would include you, Eleftheria, because we're about the same age, if I recall. I can't recall.
I'm a millennial, so I've been screwed by the system pretty much my entire life. So I'm definitely not in a lucky generation.
Well, yeah. So I got to be part of the tail end of Gen X, and then the millennial generation exploded. So there was twice as many girls a year younger than me than there was of my age and older. And so we had this, like, they call it the Gen X feeding frenzy, because we had this plethora of women. I happened to always date girls older than me usually, so I sort of missed out, but it's because I was looking for people who wanted to talk philosophy instead of go to parties and raves. Right. But yeah, there was this whole party time, you could say, for a while there. But then all of a sudden it dried up, and the new wave was like what they're now calling incels, which is wild. The whole incel guys they don't know how to they're not socialized. I find that very shocking. And again, we have this population collapse, which they're using. So they must have done something to cause that intentionally, so that there'd be a population collapse that would necessitate bringing in a subclass of foreign slaves, essentially. And I talked to the Uber drivers. They feel like slaves here in Canada.
I mean, there's probably multiple things that they're doing, if they can, or certain people, certain agendas, control population. I think that. Don't they? Go ahead.
Oh, go on.
I was gonna say, don't they all limit, like, say, places like China? Isn't there a limit on how many children you can have, actually?
That ended a long time ago. That was a bad experiment that they regretted.
Oh.
The one China system. Oh yeah. Oh, this was definitely during my era. I mean, you remember this Eleftheria, right? Like, so like if you had a girl, you just drown it into the toilet. If you had a boy, you'd send him off to become a future incel at a CCP corporation.
Yeah, so it's like the combination of a low birth rate plus traditional values, meaning that there's basically a what would you call it, gynocide that was happening, it meant that there was not enough population replacement and too many men. And so that's at least one thing that came out of it was the game show If You Are the One. But you know, where there's such, you know, there's such a high, you know, demand for women, because there's so many blokes that, you know, they can be on a game show and actually adjudicate, you know, whether they're the perfect partner. But yeah, it's certainly a disaster in terms of China's population trajectory, like a overcorrection for having a population that was getting too big. And then we haven't learned that lesson yet in Western countries, but I would say that we're about to learn it, but our population's still growing. It's just not by people having children. So definitely things are changing in quite a significant way.
Isn't it atrazine, something like that, that they found in the water supply that changes? I think Alex Jones name is. She's like, they're making the frogs gay, but it was like they're putting atrazine in the water supply of somewhere, and it changes, kind of like a hormonal shift to where it changes, like I think it like makes you, at least and in the studies, it made the frogs attract to the opposite sex or something like that. And so I think the idea is that they used it as a way to decrease breeding. I don't know if you've heard that, but.
Well, there are all kinds of forever chemicals that in our environment that some of which affect fertility, some of which cause cancer. So yeah, industrialization has got to a point where we're just poisoning ourselves constantly.
Well, I definitely think this plan goes back a long way, right? The Yuri Bekmenov stuff. I mean, this is clear. Like, that's what we just didn't see coming. A lot of us, like even a lot of my friends who were talking about this stuff in the mid 90s, early 90s even. Some of my friends were talking about Alex Jones in the early 90s, because I didn't have cable, and they were talking about the Lolita Express all the time. And this is like 93, 94. That's when they would joke about it, and then we'd get back to playing Dungeons and Dragons or whatever.
Who's Yuri Bekmenov?
Oh, that's an interesting clip. That would be one worth watching and reacting to, actually. He's a Russian spy who defected. Yeah, he spy, and then he laid out on camera the whole plan, the multi-decade plan of Russia to destabilize the West, and it's exactly what we've seen happen. So it went viral a few years ago because it keeps repeatedly going viral over the years, because every once in a while people are like rewatching, like, wow, we've done a new stage of this. Now we've done the next stage of this, and now we've done the next stage.
So it was communism's fault. It was the communists.
I don't even. I'm trying to think if there's any debate about that point. I don't think I've seen any debate about that.
Well, whether it's KGB communists or communists on university campuses, tomatoes.
I think destabilizing the Europe and North America was definitely been in the works a long, long time. Bezmenov, there it is, Yuri Bezmenov.
Yeah, I haven't heard of that guy, but I think I've heard that name, but I never knew what it was in regards to.
Oh yeah, first you want to destabilize gender relationships and use that to attack the nuclear family, disrupt that, weaken the male population through additives in food and water supplies, dumb down the population with the stuff in our water, which is true. Vancouver, we're lucky that we're one of the only cities in Canada that didn't, what's it called to its water? It's probably good I'm blanking the name. Fluoridate the water. It's probably why I got to grow up so psychical, because we use it to we use it to make our enemy. We've been using it to make our enemies dumb for a long time, and it's been used against us for a long time. There's a famous Parks and Recreation episode where that's all about promoting fluoride. The whole point of it is to promote fluoridation of water. It's really shocking, and I don't know if it actually shrinks your pineal gland and reduces your access to the spirit world by lowering your DMT production endogenously. I don't know if that's scientifically true at all, but we do know it makes you dumb. It lowers your IQ, a standard deviation. You grow up drinking fluoride. So damn it, I could have got a better grade in math. Wait, no, I had no fluoride. Damn it, it's my fault. Oh my God, I'll be right back.
Should use your psychic curse for that one.
See, the problem with that is if my IQ was a standard deviation higher, I would not be able to function with other people at all. I would just be like, I would just be like hiding in a house my whole life and not being able to interact with people at all.
Well, that just goes to show that those IQ things aren't necessarily all there is.
Yeah.
I think that I don't know if they factor in like emotional intelligence on those, but I feel like it's a pretty big factor when you look at intelligence as a whole.
Yeah, and there's creativity as well, which goes into it. And the latest studies of genius, they kind of emphasize that it's not just about IQ, it's IQ plus creativity plus a drive to do something different. And you can have a relatively low IQ that wouldn't be considered genius level, like in the 120s, like one of those physicists had, but still be considered a genius because of those other things interacting. But yeah, very interesting. But
I wonder if like people that do have psychic abilities, if there is any differentiation with them and their IQs being higher or lower, or if it doesn't matter. I wonder if there's anything to that.
Well, there's that whole thing about GATE, right? And like
the GATE programs,
how all the gifted and talented programs were just a front to recruit kids that
like that one.
Yes. Yeah, more of a disposition towards having psychic abilities. And I have my own theory about that, which might be biased by my own subjective experiences, but I actually think what they were looking for was kids on the spectrum, because if you're on the spectrum, you've got less of a neurological, what's it called? Neural trimming, I think is called, where basically the brain has this natural process where it trims the neurons so that you're not overwhelmed with information all of the time. But a autistic person's brain can't do that. So it's like a forest or a shrub growing wild, but in terms of neurons. And so if you have that level of interconnectivity, then that would help you to perceive more things than other people, whether that's on a psychic level or not. So I think maybe that's what was happening with the GATE programs.
Have you? What do you think about the programs, RC? Oh, I think you did. I didn't mean to cut you off.
I don't know much about them. I don't know much about the GATE programs. I've spent a few dozen hours looking into them, but not much. Not much really struck me as very interesting. All the practical stuff and advice was replicated stuff from the occult literature that we already have access to, and a lot of the practices I think we already have very good ways of approaching from spiritual traditions before the U.S. government got their hands on them. But when it comes to the siphoning of kids and talented programs, I have no idea. I don't even think, I don't know if something like that was ever done in Canada.
So I'm sorry, Elliot, were you still saying something? I didn't cut you off.
No, I was trying to look up the term. I think it's synaptic pruning, I think is the technical term. It's the thing that doesn't happen in an autistic brain. But yeah, I think, the GATE program, that seemed to be much more of a US focused thing. Actually, yeah, I was in the gifted and talented program here in Australia when I was in primary school, and most of the stuff that we did was like high school level stuff, but in primary school. So middle school level stuff, but in elementary school, and a lot of sciencey type stuff. But then there was this one time where we had this speaker come to one of our classes who was talking about like psi research and the Chinese kids who could teleport small objects from one container into another. And I always thought that was really weird. Like, it was kind of random for that to be kind of.
How old are you?
I would have been about 12 at that point. But, because these are very hard sciencey types of people, and now we're listening to what would be considered woo-woo from this guest speaker. But nothing came of it. But then I just wonder, was that a setup for something later down the track? Like, I didn't enroll for a gifted and talented program in high school, but if I had, was that kind of like the setup for something else? Yeah.
When they did the presentation, was it just with the kids, or were there like parents involved?
I remember, it's kind of hard to remember actually. Like, I feel like I remember parents being there, but I'm not sure if they were. And I also sometimes remember it as like a gifted and talented program thing, and I sometimes remember it as like a primary school thing, like the whole class from my primary school was there. But it's kind of difficult to remember.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of really interesting stories on that. But RC,
no. I mean, yeah, I guess some people in the chat are saying that these programs did exist in Canada. I went to Waldorf school. So in grade 10, when we asked our teacher about astral travel, she told us how Steiner taught it, and then started talking about taking acid in Vegas and going to see Elvis perform. So that was my sort of school experience. But we also did exercises in like eurythmy class where every two students were each given a color. Every two students had their own color told to them secretly. And then you would stand spread out in the room equidistant randomly, and you would close your eyes and visualize the sphere of the color you were told by the teacher in your ear. And you were meant to stop moving. You wander around the room. If you bump into people, it's fine. You stop moving when you feel like you're standing next to the person who's also visualizing the same sphere of color around you. And like only a couple students ended up with the wrong people. I ended up next to my best friend, and I was like, oh, we probably didn't visualize the same color. We're just in sync because we're besties, right? And then I was like, Sophie, what color was it? And she was like, orange. I'm like, I was told orange as well. Holy shit. And then we went around the room, and it's like, okay, only a few students, the stoners, were all jumbled up in with the wrong people or standing by themselves. But it was interesting that it was the stoners. Like, and these are kids who would have been smoking weed that lunch before the class. That's what I mean by stoners, not cannabis users, just like people who are fucking baked all day. Tommy Chong's son was in our school, in our class. So like in our classes. So like pot was a big thing the 4 years I was in high school because of Chong's son.
The Cheech and Chong?
Yeah.
Well, that's crazy.
Yeah. And the school didn't ban it, didn't punish us for people. I didn't do it, but for kids smoking weed because he was in our school. Right. As soon as he graduated, 2 students like lost their honors awards for smoking pot. But while Tommy Chong's son was there, it was go for it. The teachers couldn't justify debating that in PTA with Tommy Chong.
I've got a question I want to ask you guys. What's your take on that Dr. Oz guy? Is that him?
I just know him from
Oz?
American infomercials, and now he's in some government role that you guys have.
He's like considered a mentalist, I guess, but he's able to like.
Dr. Oz is no, he's a medical doctor.
Who am I
Isn't
talking
he like
about?
a fake TV doctor?
You're thinking of
Like,
someone else.
Who's the guy that was just at the Trump thing with Mr. Melania or whatever when the guy ran the gun? He goes on all these podcasts and like he'll guess names that they're thinking about. I think it's Oz the mental. Oh man, I would love to get your take. Yeah, Perlman. If you haven't,
I mean, mentalists generally explain how they do what they're doing.
Yeah, it's pretty easy.
And how they're tricking people, right? They set these things up.
He
They
does.
do a lot of groundwork.
Yeah.
Like yeah.
You'll have to.
They're not trying to convince you that they're actually doing it. They're just entertaining you and then explaining after how they planted a tracker on you or a mic on you 4 days ago or something, which is it is very entertaining. I love that stuff.
That's interesting. That's what I was wondering what your thoughts were, because I know that there's like books on mentalism. I don't know if there's anything to it, but he does reveals like you know, people will think of a girlfriend that they dated in like middle school that they haven't thought about in years or something, and he'll guess the name, and then like people are just like really blown away by it, and it seems kind of crazy.
I used to think that those guys were blending psychism to pull off some of those tricks until I started to see some of the explanation videos of how they did that stuff, showing all the research that they would do and how they would plant that back in the person's mind so that it would work. And of course, they only show you the successes. They don't show you any of the failures, sort of like the telepathy tape stuff, which I love, but I'm still waiting for them to go and prove it scientifically like they said they would. And if it's real, you can prove it. So as long as you're only showing your successes, that stuff, in my opinion, is rather sketchy.
The Oz guy, he'll go on live podcasts and live like he'll just all the time. I don't know. It's really crazy, but people are like, it's not the normal kind of list. That
is he actually claiming to be psychic? Because my understanding of mentalist is
not at
their
all.
whole thing is that they're like, no, I'm not psychic. I'm tricking you. You just don't know how.
That's what he says. But like, even
I would take his word at it for it, right? You know, if they are tricking you, I would take his word for it. I doubt it's like some psychic, like Lord of Illusion, secretly able to fly, pretending to fake flying while actually flying. I think if these people could really had demonstrable psychic skills, they would go and prove it, like most people with psychic skills do. I mean, if you look at the telekinesis training going on, mental training, mind sight training, those people they produce courses. They go and demonstrate it, and they demonstrate its limitations in particular, which is what is most interesting. Like, how far can it go, and how far have we not been able to make it go?
Maybe he's a psychic pretending to be a mentalist.
Well, like I said, I used to think that until I started seeing some of these guys explaining how they did it, and it's like, okay, if you're putting like all that work into it, then of course, that's really impressive in just another way. I mean, my illusions, my illusions.
Yeah.
Have either of you seen Battle of the Fates? It's like this Korean TV show. And basically what it is, it's a game show, and it's a competition like MasterChef, but with psychics. So like they have like a bunch of like traditional Korean shamans, which are really cool. And then like shoju, no, I'm thinking of the drink. What shaju, I think it is their method of divination. And then there's other people that read tarot, and they're bringing all these people in to read different people and situations, and whoever gives the most accurate reading moves on to the next round. And it's it's quite an entertaining watch. Yeah, so I'm convinced anyway that
People want the name of the show.
Things. Battle of the Fates, I think it is. Let me just check that.
RC.
That's me.
Do you have or both of you like a method for training psychism that you feel is something that is pretty potent that you would recommend? Like, how would you, if somebody wanted to train their psychic abilities, what would be like what you would recommend to them?
For me, it totally depends on what. Like, it's a wide field. Like, training your ability to feel, or first of all, finding out how you interpret your senses is important, because otherwise people spend ages trying to see energy when in fact it turns out they could feel it all along, and they should have focused on that, and then the seeing will come, right? You find out, in my experience, and I can say it's vast, you find out your main sense and focus on that sense, and the other senses move along with it, with its development. So you can't, if you're a feeler, you can't push the seeing. You have to focus on the feeling, and then you'll start to see more. But that's a whole different field versus, say, practicing mind sight, which is something I've been working on intensely the last 4 or 5 years now, and had tremendous success with. I'm working towards the point so that I can read what's written on a piece of paper completely blinded. I can easily tell how many fingers someone's holding up, and I'm not guessing, I'm not intuiting it. I see it. Like, I see the difference. It's like I'm seeing a blackness, but then I see the aura around the fingers, and I've done it over and over, and there's never a failure, because I'm not guessing. I'm just telling the person what I actually see, which is how many fingers they're holding up. So you can develop that stuff with practice. Yeah, there's a really popular guy. What's his? Sean McNamara does that. He teaches, lots of people teach that though, but he also does interesting work in the telekinesis field. And I used to teach it back at our temple in Vancouver, using dowsing rods, copper dowsing rods. I have them lying all over the place, different pairs. And you can do that. And there's several stages of development to working with those. But the interesting thing Sean McNamara does is the classic, you put a needle through an eraser and put a little bit of tinfoil on it, and then put a glass flower jar or pot over top, and you spin the tinfoil on the needle head around from doing that. And it takes practice. It's going to take practice, but if you follow the steps and build up those sort of psychical muscles, you can do it. You absolutely can do it. And if you stop practicing it, chances are it'll fade. And that's one of the most interesting features I find about developing those things, is the fact that it's not like, oh, I awoken my kundalini, I can feel it, Lord save me, oh Buddha or Jesus, or I don't know, guru baby, I can feel I've awakened my yoni, and now I can touch the kundalini powers. But like, those experiences are great. I'm not mocking those experiences. A lot of us have had those experiences. They're wonderful. But what's interesting about this sort of psychism is that it does seem to have a distinct improvement rate, verifiable, testable improvement rate over time using the same experiments. And if you stop doing them, it diminishes. And this is the kind of stuff that got Dean Radin's career going, right? Like, wait, there is something measurable going on here. It might not be as much as we think, or like, we can't throw fireballs or fly, or, lots of other things we can't do so far that we know, but we can measure what we can do. And it's scientifically significant, which is why the establishment has worked so hard to suppress and debunk it, I think. And why channels like ours, who talk about actual magic and actually how to do these things, are not well loved by the algorithm. If we were just pumping out rehashed versions of Liam Thomas Christopher's work, we'd be in the tens of Ks.
I think the secret is that we need to be more like Candace Owens and say things that are just so preposterous and untrue that it gets a reaction out of people. But just on your point, Sky, in terms of what I would consider good for psi training, so to speak, in my experience with like energetic healing in the form of Reiki and using so-called distance healing to see things remotely that way and feel things that way, and also related to like mediumship and channeling, actually the best thing that you can do is let go and let the process work through you, and let whatever that is that's giving you the information work through you. And it takes a lot of practice to actually stop thinking. Like if you're trying to intuit something about a person, say channeling, for example, then it takes some practice to get the mind out of the way, because the mind will want to jump in and say, oh, well, you know, this person most likely likes this because of this about them, so this is the information you have to give them. And instead you have to just learn to discern between that, the monkey mind, trying to draw inferences, and then just remaining in the silence and paying attention to the very first thing that arises. And just not think about it. Just whatever that is, just, you know, go with it. And that is a good way of training psychic abilities in terms of clairvoyant types of things, I would say. And also working with something like Reiki, like you very much have to just, you're just a hose pipe.
Yeah.
You just hold your hands there and the energy does the rest. It's got an intelligence of its own, and it knows exactly where to go. It's not you pushing the force onto people and doing something yourself. And it doesn't work that way with clairvoyance either, I don't think.
Yeah. Do you feel like the same quote unquote like psychic muscle is being worked when you're doing something like receiving a communication from an angelic being, or it would categorize that into a different area? If you were developed in an area, do those go hand in hand, or do you see it as different?
I think that it's definitely, yeah, I think that those methods for being good at channeling are also methods that help with something like scrying. It's the same principle of like something else is trying to communicate to you at an intuitive level, and you have to silence the mind in some way to allow that to unfold. If that answers the question.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think you're dead on with what you're saying, Frater. Especially the part of, so in letting go, right? Where often people I see would get to the stage of, you know, imagine you're doing color cards or tarot card sensing, right? Basic stuff. This is so, you know, primary that it's even mentioned in the Cicero Self-Initiation Golden Dawn book, right? Because it's a classic technique. People get to the stage where they start rejecting their initial intuition for what they feel is the intuition. And then that's where I see people usually quit, where it's like, oh, I that was what I wanted to say, but instead I said this. And they get to that stage, and that's where they quit, right? They get to, at first they have some success because they're just letting go, they're open, right? And then they keep getting successes, and then they're like, oh damn, I didn't say what I was going to say. And that's where I think the first step of training comes in. That's really significant, where it's training people. And this is where a lot of our orders practices help, right? Meditation 1, focusing on a point, all this stuff, letting go of thoughts, learning to understand your consciousness and how you as a unique soul experience your entire psyche and sphere of sensation, so that you know the difference between those feelings. I call them feelings because that's how I translate all of this stuff, including visual stuff, which has allowed me to have visual stuff. And it is completely visual. It's just I accessed it through a deeper connection to my emotions. Who needs the meme? You got me. Just let me put on some blackface. No. Wait. I'm going to play the meme.
My emotions! My emotions!
So through your emotions, through my emotions, I can get a visual impression of what I'm seeing, and that's true to that thing, right? But you got to stay in that open state. And then once you lose that sense, you have to retrain to identify what it is. So then you have to, that's where you're marking down your targets and how often you hit your targets with remote viewing or with color sensing, with even scrying practices, because you start to notice that the ones that you're missing, you felt a certain way. And then the ones you hit right, you felt a certain way. And you start to identify what that state is. And that's like taste testing your noose. It's like taste testing and getting a real palette, developing your astral psychical palette of soul sensitivity, or of what Steiner would love simply call inner knowing, because these guys really detested any pretension. Honestly, they were not into the pretension. People like Steiner and the Anthropologists really rejected the pretensions of the magical orders of their day. And I think that's to their credit. And so they wouldn't say, oh, a spirit told me, as in, I've got gnosis and you should listen, bitch. No, they were like, I had a sense. I had an inner sense. But what they're saying is, I think God told me, right? They're just not saying it that way because they had class. And I think we could all do with a bit of that class as well.
Yeah, I think that it's interesting to think about the discernment part in regards to taking in emotions and sensations, because I've always thought about the idea that, you know, one person might have the impression, and another person might have completely different impression, oppose each other, and they both be saying that they believe that the valid intuitive impressions that are meaningful to them, they are the opposite. And then so how do you discern which one is the right one? You know what I mean?
That's such a key issue. So that's where targeted work comes in. That's where silly things like moving a piece of tinfoil on a needle on a eraser inside a clear flower pot are less silly. That's when, mindsight's never silly in my opinion. Someone can blind themselves and read shit. That's amazing. Or walk around the city and not die. That's very impressive. And there's people out there that do that, and it's very impressive. Good keep it up, folks. I'd love to be with you all there someday doing that. But with targeted work, like doing the telekinesis exercises, right? So you really know when you're feeling the right feeling, when you're sensing and tapping into that right thing, because you have a visible evidence of it. Just like with card sensing or color sensing, you know that you hit the right target, right? The person or the card confirms that you were right, and you need to identify that feeling. But with the telekinesis stuff, when it starts moving around, you're feeling exactly that feeling that you want to be feeling for all psychical work, in my opinion. So that you're seeing that you're in that right zone. You get a very real sense of what that zone is like, because that thing is spinning around. And there's no scientific reason for it to be able to do that according to modern physics. Unless consciousness perhaps is possibly real, or spirits are real, or something is real, but that would change all of modern physics. That would upend all of established science.
Have you witnessed or experienced explicit telekinesis?
Yeah. For a long time, I focused on that a lot as a teenager. Went to psychics to learn what they could tell me about it. Started demonstrating it in Golden Dawn temples. So much so that I started teaching it to practici in 3=8, and other temples were like, "You can't do that." I'm like, "Why can't I teach a class on this?" They're like, "Because you can't do that." I'm like, "Well, we're doing it in class, and you're welcome to come." Right? And it was very controversial. And I still don't know why people don't do more of that today. because you can just there's YouTube videos. Before, you had to join a temple and learn it from someone like me and see it demonstrated and then be shown how to do it, and then you do it and you're like, holy fuck. Now you can learn it off YouTube and like fucking Mindsight, Sean McNamara. There's lots of good teachers out there. Well, maybe there's not lots. He's definitely a good one. And I remember the first time I ran into one of his disciples, and he had the setup in his room at his desk, and he's like, here's my setup for the telekinesis, but I've been having a hard time recently. And I said, really? He said, yeah. And I was like, okay. And it just started spinning around really fast inside its thing on the desk. And he looked at it, he's like, is that you? I'm like, yes. And so what I was doing was I was visualizing the wind outside the door coming in. I was visualizing myself as the thing itself. And I was allowing those two things through my will to just sort of be one. And then I, did some internal exercises and temporarily felt like I ceased to exist. And it just started spinning.
Wow. Would you say that is something that operates on like the etheric, or would you describe the
I love our historical occult attempts to describe this aspect of the occult sciences. I really love all of them because you can see where each of them are coming from. They usually have it coming from a very specific perspective. But the fact is, you just spend decades trying a bunch of different stuff, and then you start to get a sense for it. And then, God willing, sometimes you're gifted the freedom of spirit to actually do this stuff. And the reason the guy didn't freak the fuck out was because he had done it before himself, but he hadn't seen someone else do it in real life. It was only him. He was the only one he knew who could do it.
I've heard this thing described. I don't remember what author it was, but it was something about like sympathetic magic. Say like if a person is walking and then you kind of like you trip to like, or you visualize them tripping or something and they trip, like it's like a transference of I think it's called sympathetic magic. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Well, that idea goes way back in cultural analysis, especially like James George Fraser's Golden Dawn is all sort of a study of the history of sympathetic magic and the way cultures have been looking at, this is our rain stick and it sounds like the rain, and therefore if we use it, the rain will come. That's sympathetic magic, right?
Have you ever known someone that's extremely advanced to the point where it's really blew your mind?
Sorry, say that again. I was
heard?
distracted by this hilarious comment. Teek says, thank you for being a channel member. Listen, if not for YouTube, I would be a frustrated occultist. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing? That's amazing. Like, for all we mock the culture today, dude, we wouldn't be friends 15 years ago, and in the 80s or 90s we wouldn't probably have met. So yeah, this stuff's amazing. Someone has a good question, but you ask your question again. I want to hear that.
Oh, I was curious if you have any personal stories of if you have known anyone that has had very extreme abilities to perform sympathetic magic, like at a distance, or psychic abilities that were just very profound that have like kind of shocked you.
Well, they seem like two different things to me. Sympathetic magic is just the aspect of magic using sympatheia, and that goes from Golden Dawn correspondences, grimoire correspondences, hierarchies of spirits, right? I'm not sure the connection of that to say psychism. Yeah. Like, see, I'm not convinced. Okay, so here's the reason I don't make the kind of descriptions of how psychism works that a lot of psychics do, because I'm not convinced it is what we think it is. I'm not convinced that it's actually our energy doing all of this. It might be our spirits. When I'm told I can read someone's mind and prove to them that you can read minds, which it's something that tells me I can do that, and then I do it. And then the person's like, that's impossible, but you just saw it happen, so it's not. But it's like someone's telling me I can do that, giving me permission. It's like there's a voice in my head giving me permission, and then I can do it. So I'm not convinced it's actually our prana or life force that's fully in charge. And Scott Stenwick, to his, again, massive credit, presenting at EnokiaCon this year and doing a crazy ritual workshop. For those who are interested, definitely get your registration in before it's too late. Scott Stenwick covers this in his basic Enochian work. I'd love to know what Eleftheria thinks about it, because he talks about the ratio of human to spirit action, right? There's the spirit action, and there's the human spirit action. There's our energy, and then there's the power of the spirits, or the daimones. So in my experience psychically, I don't know how much of that is actually me and how much is that is my guardian angels and spirit guides and all the fairies and gnomes and sylphs and undines and salamanders that make up my being and help participate in my experience of reality. But maybe maybe it's the sylphs that are pushing things around, right? Maybe that's what it is.
I think from my perspective, I've just had to move around a bit and shuffle stuff around because my laptop was about to die. But I think there's a different result if you're just trying to read something yourself versus if you're evoking a spirit to help you. There's definitely a difference. So I think that, yeah, if you explicitly call on something to help you, then it's the spirit that's doing at least some of it. I don't think that that's just a part of your own mind. I think that that's a real being that you're interacting with. But we certainly do have a level of our own innate ability, I think, as human beings. And yeah.
Do you know what has an answer actually for us? This beautiful product placement of the Hermetica 1 by Dr. M. David Litwa, which I have a copy of because it's made in, they're based in Canada, so it hit Amazon Canada first. So I've had this for a long time now. The argument of the Hermetica is that, right, we do these things through our nous, which is our intuition at its most basic level, but that nous is also a daimon. It's our holy daimon. So the whole debate of whether Stenwick's debate arguably is moot, because the things he's saying, it's some of this, it's some of that. If they are at the next level, the same thing, then who cares? And I think that's why most magicians, we don't see more debate about this, because who really cares if it's how much of this is your higher self or your higher consciousness, and its attendant daimones and kakodaimones that make up your being, because we are made of all these beings in the Hermetica, right? What's the difference if it's just that higher? It's all the same thing. It's the same thing,
it's
man.
all expressions of that fundamental consciousness that is God and that is fundamental to the universe.
Someone asked, have you read the Pymander of Hermes Trismegistus? This is the newest translation of it, the most superior, laid out as a system of initiation. And the book has a great audio book on Audible, Hermetica 1, narrated by yours truly.
Who read that?
I narrated it. And do you want to see the most fucked up thing in the book? He dedicated it to me.
Nice. That's amazing.
So then, the newest and initiatory translation of the Nag Hammadi fragments from Coptic and the Corpus Hermeticum and Asclepius from Greek, it got dedicated to me. I don't know what to say. I thank you, Dr. Litwa. This is the first time I've addressed this because most people don't know about this. It's shocking, dumbfounding, but thank you very much. And may Hermes bless you. I love working with him on the audiobook, and I'm very pleased that this book is available for us to infuse our lives with it.
Yeah. All right. So I got a question.
Go buy it today.
Go buy it. So if somebody has multiple personality disorder, do they have multiple daimons?
Well, I think that would be the obvious argument. Is like we all have too many daimons to count. Daimones, we have way too many, right? And we've got the good ones, the bad ones, and that's why we have to focus on purifying them. And there's a really interesting passage actually that I'll tell you. What then is true thrice great? What is not muddied, child, or bounded? What has no color, shape, or change? The naked, the brilliant, what is comprehended from itself, unaltering, the good? What has no body? I'm truly insane, Father. I was thinking that I was wise under your direction, but my perceptions of this notion are blocked. So it is, my child. What floats upward is like fire, and what sinks down is like earth. What is moist is like water, and what one breathes is like air. But how can you conceive without your senses what is not hard or moist, not bound tight or hanging loose, what is conceived with the power and energy of the higher consciousness alone? It requires someone who can understand birth in God with higher consciousness. So I am unable, Father. Hardly, child. Withdraw into yourself and it will come. Want it and it happens. Disable the senses of your body and then the birth of the cause of divinity comes. Purify yourself with the irrational punishers made of matter. Then it goes into the punishers, which I'll be lecturing about next month in Austin.
Very exciting stuff. Speaking of books,
his advice is poignant though, right? Like disable your senses, open yourself to the higher senses. That's the key advice. Be silent, he says later. Just be silent. It's Harpocrates.
Yeah. I was gonna let
you get me all excited.
No worries.
I'm all wound up, baby.
Woo! Get wound up. I was gonna ask Eleftheria and speak to his book because it's coming out pretty soon, isn't it?
Yeah.
Book launch.
Yeah. I'm having a book launch party next Thursday for me. So the 21st for me, which I believe will be the 20th for the States. So yeah, I've been promoting this for a couple of months now. If people haven't heard about it already, I'm publishing a book called The Voces Caelesti, or the Book of Heavenly Voices. It's basically a compilation of communications that I've received from scrying rituals using angelic magic. Some of that is with my holy guardian angel. Some of that is with Enochian rituals, particularly the Jebaphol ritual. And I've had to kind of sit on it for quite a few years before it's ready to be released. And now is the time. So, yeah, I mean, it's the amount of stuff that it covers is huge. So it's hard to summarize it off the top of my head, but I'll be introducing people a bit more to it at my online launch in just under a week. So keep a lookout on my YouTube channel for that. I'm very excited about it.
Yeah. A question for you, Eleftheria. Have you ever encountered any situation where an Enochian angel communicated one thing and your higher divine genius communicated another thing, and they were at odds with each other?
Not those separate entities. The message is pretty consistent, but where there have been times where something's come in that's inconsistent or something contradicts something or seems a bit false, it's usually because my own mind is interfering because I've slipped up and allowed that to happen. So you have to kind of learn how to distinguish between the two different types of communication, and there's a bit of a process involved there as well. But no, the messages of the different angels have been pretty consistent. Some of them will talk about different things to others, but yeah, there's definitely a harmony there.
Yeah. Is that even a thing? Does that happen to people? Have you heard anything like that?
Does what happen? Something else interferes.
Having different angelic communication being like at odds with each other.
Oh, not in my experience. Angelic, the actual different angels being at odds with each other. I haven't heard anything like that.
Like, yeah, say like if you received a message or a communication from one and like revealed something, and then the other one revealed something that was like countered it, or no, I just thought it'd be interesting.
You mean like when the angel Gabriel revealed Quranic verses to Muhammad that completely contradicted everything that was in the Bible beforehand?
There you go. It's pretty interesting.
I don't know. Sometimes stuff like that can happen, but then you've got to ask yourself, whether something else happened which might have interfered with that process. And it was the same with D. N. Kelly as well, because Edward Kelly had been given a lot of doctrines by what he termed evil spirits, which were at odds with what the angels were trying to teach, and they kind of called him out for it. So yeah, it can happen, but it's usually a sign of interference of some kind.
Quick question: Hebrew Bible is El. God in Hebrew Bible is El, right? El is a word for God in Hebrew. It is a loan word from the Babylonian word El. But yeah, so Hebrew has multiple words for God. El Elyon is the name for God, the Most High. El Elyon, Elohim, right? Yod He Vav He. There's a few others, but they are considered Hebrew words, even if they did have antecedents in other languages.
RC
and Yah, El and Yah are two big names for the God in Hebrew.
Is Allah, is that just a different language for El or
Is what?
Yahweh? Allah.
Allah is Arabic, yeah.
But is it basically the same?
Well, they have origin. Again, someone's saying Canaanite, yeah. So again, these roots have common ancestry in pre-Judaic, Islam's way late. Islam's super late. We're talking when we were talking about the adoption of the words El and Elohim. So the idea is that Yod He Vav He was the first. The priestly writers in the Genesis, the priestly writers who composed the first part of the Bible, the Genesis chapter 1, that was a much later. That's like 200 years written later than the whole Garden of Eden, when God is anthropomorphic and referred to as Yod He Vav He. So the second chapter more comes from the earlier times, but all of these, again, this is almost 1,000 years before Islam and Allah. So these names just persisted as common and similar names for God or gods in Semitic culture. That's what the thing is. People try to make more of it than it is, but it's just common roots.
Yeah, and it's really interesting to track how monotheistic belief evolved over time. The Israelites didn't always worship the same God. There was a point where they worshipped multiple gods, and then Yahweh took over, and Yahweh got conflated with El, and all of this sort of thing. And then the old
exactly.
The Torah got rewritten about 3 different times. You've got the P source, you've got the P version, the priestly version, and then the Deuteronomy, I think.
Yeah, so you have J is the Yahwist, and E is the Elohist, and that's the first part of the Bible. Then you have the Deuteronomist, and then there's other sources like G, which is the oral tradition, but it's also got a subsection referred to as Q or Quelle, which is the German word for source. So there's the idea that there was other texts that had key information that this was drawn from. All of this is textual, critical, historical theory, right? But there is a lot of it holds up really well. Like the early construction of Genesis is very hard to dispute. I mean, there's nuances and new theories that come forward every once in a while, but yeah, in general, these, like, here's a great example of a word. Adonai in Hebrew and Adonis in Greek both come from the same Ugaritic word, and this is Ugarit. This is Babylonian. They both come from the Ugaritic word Yadun, apostrophe D-N, which just meant Lord. So in Ugarit, there was a word for Lord, like, hey, chief, how's it going? And that became Adonai, and then that became Adonis. Two very different beings, as most occultists would see them, right? Like, you can't worship Adonai and Adonis, baby. It's like, why not? They're both my Lord in Ugarit.
Yeah, and the term Baal just means Lord as well.
Yeah.
Or master.
Yeah.
So
Baal Shem Tov. In Hebrew, it's just Baal. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Baal, that's a different iteration. These are all different iterations. What are we? Who put this on screen?
I put it up. I figured you might have something to say to that.
I don't.
Okay.
It doesn't mean anything to me.
I think that there's some. I think this guy was one of the. He was one of the sources that the Zeitgeist guy referred to. You remember when that Zeitgeist movie came out, and there was the whole thing about Jesus is the sun, and that's why all these sun gods are born December 25th and died for 3 days and all of that. I think that's what this guy is. Yeah, I don't necessarily think the whole Bible is an allegory for astrology, but I do think there's a lot of astrological Easter eggs hidden in the Bible. Like, for example, the cherubim, the 4 living creatures in Ezekiel's vision, bear a very strong resemblance to the fixed signs of the zodiac. So there's definitely some little Easter eggs in there to do with astrology, but to say the whole thing is just a metaphor for the sun revolving around the earth revolving around the sun, or whatever, I think is probably taking that to too much of an extreme.
Someone says Aramaic is related to Arabic in the same way that Latin is related to English. So how can we be sure if they are different beings given the names come from the same word? Excellent question. So glad you asked. It depends on your religion. Like, what's your religious view of the world? This is why the Golden Dawn lets anyone be of their whatever religion they want, because we don't dictate in our magical system what things are. So what an angel is to you is what an angel is to you. We're not trying to get into any debates about what that is, because who are we to say, right? So there's different ways of answering this question. One is like the sort of postmodern magic way of saying, oh, they're all different egregores of thought forms that gain substantial, existence, whether ontologically or nominalistically. Either way, we experience them as phenomena, and therefore they're real. Or you could look at the Hermetica way. They're all daimones, right? That is a thing that takes force. Spirits take form from ideas and traditions and human worship. Like, is it as above, so below? I mean, when you read the actual Emerald Tablet, in Latin at least, it says, quod est inferius, est sicut quod est superius. Now, what's inferius mean, Eleftheria? Pop quiz, hot shot.
Lower.
So why do we say as above, so below first, if the Emerald Tablet says as below, so above first? Have you ever heard anyone ask that question before?
Is there a difference?
Well, it implies that the above comes first and that the below is a reflection of the above. But is it?
I've been trying to talk about this for decades, but no one seems interested.
What do you RC?
Talk
about it.
Oh, I just said everything I think there needs to be said about it. No. We're talking about so how can Adonis and Adonai come from Yadon, a Ugaritic word that slaves would have used for their masters? Well, in the Hermetica, they would both, Adonai would be a daimone for sure, or just a title for the monad, either however you parse it. It's up to you, because that's your religion, that's your spiritual belief, that's your faith, and you can have whatever one you want, hopefully, for now. So they would all be daimones, and they derive from creation, and we are part of creation, and therefore we are part of the generative process and part of a participating whole, organic whole with those daimones. Get your copy today. Hermetica 1 by Dr. M. David Litwa, in the Audible book for free with a membership. Use my affiliate code, which I didn't bother to make because who cares? Just listen to it. This is the view of the Hermetica, that isn't that interesting? The way you look at the Emerald Tablet in that reverse order, the way you consider the Hermetic view from several centuries before the Emerald Tablet was written, at least according to the earliest Arabic sources. And you get this very clear worldview that lines up strangely well with how magicians on the ground who are doing the work like Frater Ashen Chasan and Frater Eleftheria here, putting out books of their communications with spirits. This is the paradigm that I think we've almost murdered, but has been reborn with in the last while. I mean, that's why I think universities like exiled Dr. Litwa for buying a motorcycle. Let's put it that way. And now we get him, and he's like, well, what does the world need? And he graduated seminary the same year I did in 2006. He's a year younger than me, which makes me feel super. No, I'm okay. But he did a different life path to me. I went on a musical journey through the Bardic mysteries, went to Ireland and lived in farmers' fields for years, learning Gaelic and how to sing the old Irish songs. He went and learned Coptic and mastered Greek and brought us the Hermetica ordered as an order pathway of initiation. And it's so timely, I think, to understanding the world as we experience today, when you consider the rise in spirit workings happening cross-culturally, the omnipresence of UFOs and UAPs and dreams and nightmares of little green men, and then the full exposure of the corrupt systems that govern us and rule our lives with this threat of a technocratic digital transhuman future. And here's this guy whose first book was called like Post-Human Transformation in the Ancient Mediterranean Thought, and it's all about how theosis and angelification versus angelomorphism lead to transhumanistic dystopias masked as utopias that we see today. And he traces all that back to the early Christian writers before shit got shitty with the Nicene era, back when shit was legit with the Gnostics fighting it out tooth and claw against the Catholics, and then the Hermetists over in Alexandria still doing their pagan thing. No, banning incense because that's sacrilegious. Why is that sacrilegious? Probably because they were the poorer people who were kicked out of the temples and didn't have the money to afford frankincense anymore. Either that, or who knows, they were smoking DMT and were like, fuck that, frankincense is a sacrilege once you got the good shit, baby. Maybe that's what it was. Who knows? I speculate.
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm all for bringing back people sharing their spirit visions. You know,
that's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, Crowley could do it, so why can't everybody else do it who's working the same systems that he worked? You know, I'm sure that, you know,
we haven't had a good one since Ashen Chassan did his opus.
Well,
now you've done it.
Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see
Your
how
opus is here.
Yeah, it is. It is. It really is.
I'm ready to celebrate. Well,
hey,
we're gonna talk about it. I can't wait. We're gonna have so much fun digging into it. I can't wait to see what sort of stuff you guys you have dug up. Isn't Amon Hillman like not worth this? He's like, come on.
We covered that on the last.
I thought this was a serious show.
There's something really. I don't know. Sometimes I just like get a read on people, and like there's just something puts me off about his energy. There's something there that's like a little bit like, I don't know. I don't really know how to put words to it. It just it's just, it sets something off inside me. I don't know.
I think he's a demon. I think he's a fucking possessed by cacodaimonese and full of shit. He reeks of it.
Yeah.
Clip that.
But just on the topic that we were on before, like I'm really looking forward to how the Book of Heavenly Voices is received, because pretty much like the only people that have read any of it, you know, I've done like one video where I read one quote from it recently, and I read a little snippet of it at last year's Enochiacon. But outside of that, there's not really anybody who's familiar with its contents besides me and my wife. So like there's been no sounding board for the ideas. So you feel a little bit of trepidation putting something like that out, but we'll just see what happens. Maybe it won't be well received. Maybe it'll blow people's minds. We'll see. And I can't change it because it's not mine to change. You know, I'm just the.
It's what happened.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's a brave thing to do, so I laud you for that. And I'm excited to read it because, you know, as critical as I think we all should be of channeled material and, well, all material, like science too. Like it's not just for channeling. It's like should be critical of it, all stuff. I really enjoy stuff. Even like when my friends would like force feed me the law of Ra, or what is it, the law of one.
The raw materials.
Like my so many friends of mine are like, bless their hearts, but they're like, no, like read this paragraph. Now read this paragraph. You're like, okay, I love you, so I'm gonna read it. And then I read it and I'm like, you know, but once in a while I'll read something, I'll be like, well, this is really true. I think this is great. Like, and if you're just encountering this information for the first time reading this, well, you know, but I was raised on this shit, on Cryon and reading all of these channeled things like Lazarus, all of those channeled famous channelers of the 80s. Again, it's the air I breathed. It was my religion growing up. Absolutely. I mean, I was seeing the top-notch psychics. I was seeing Tom Cruise's psychic before I was in high school because it was important. That was my family culture. That was the culture. So if people are now discovering Law of Ra, why should I, you know, just because it's like really parochial to me, doesn't mean they're not they could change their lives with it. So that's good.
So I have a question for you, Frater RC, because, you know, psychics have played a part in my early life as well. And I've been guided by a lot of things that they said. And I just wonder, have you been, if you don't mind sharing, have you ever been given any information about a milestone in your own life or in the way the world is going to look that is in the future that is quite significant?
Oh, that's a good question. But you're not asking about my own personal life. You're asking more world, right?
Well, either one.
Okay, so tons of personal stuff. That first psychic that I went to was taken to a lot. Like I got the cassette tapes that we recorded from the sessions and listened to them 10 years later with one of the chiefs of the Golden Dawn Order I was in, who's a really big influence in my life. And we listened back to them, and he heard all, like, it was like 3, 4, 5 hours. We were moving. I was doing moving in with my new bride, and he kept saying, he's like, Frater, when was this recording? I'm like, 1993. He's like, dude, everything she said has come true in the last 5 years of your life. I'm like, yeah. Even like she said I would work with like masks. She saw me working with masks, and I was like, that's nonsense. I have zero interest in that. And then years later, I'm doing these Yeats plays, and I'm sitting there doing a plaster of Paris mask on my, not yet, but as of 2 years later, future wife's face outside of our school in my early 20s, doing these Yeats plays. And then I remembered the psychic telling me I'd be working with masks, and like almost everything in those tapes came true in my life, except for one thing so far. But yeah, they didn't hit many of the tragedies or warnings. And I could even remember sensing in the session how much the psychic held back certain areas that I would ask questions of, because I was going to her from age like 13 to 16. And that was the same period in which I found the Golden Dawn and all that. And she gave me advice on joining that and all of these things. And I wish I still had those tapes, but I had a home invasion and most of my property was stolen. So tons of other things. I could, if I thought about it for a few minutes, I could think of something. I could think of a few more. Actually, let me take a pee break. You guys keep talking, and maybe I'll come up with one or two more things, because I know you'd like something more global. And I think she said a few things, but I'll see about it. I can give you more personal things for sure, because that was mostly what I was interested in as a teenager.
Yeah, okay. But after your pee break, I've probably got to go soon after that.
Good.
So maybe we can think of a way of ending on an explosive note for this SYNAXIS.
Sounds good. Yeah, people might be wondering, like, why don't we know this stuff about each other? He and I have actually never had our like full tete-a-tete one-on-one and gotten to really know each other yet. We've just done the online thing that most of our interactions have been public. So we haven't really, even we podcasted, but that's not the same. You didn't get to know me. So you actually, and you haven't been like following my show for years. So yeah, we'll get to know each other soon on Zoom privately, but I'll see if I can think of something while I go to the bathroom. So you guys have a good, fun penultimate chat before we wrap up the show.
All right.
So I'll just throw this question out to you. Please go to the bathroom. What are some of the major themes or things that you see in regards to occult confusion, or common ways that people are confused about occult information or esotericism, or popular things that are being out there that are very, very much misrepresentative of esotericism?
Well, I guess like the biggest thing is that like everything occult gets lumped together as something dark and spooky, like that kind of heavy metal band imagery of like Satan and 666 and all that sort of thing. And I think it's largely Aleister Crowley's fault that people have that misconception. But there's all kinds of different forms of occultism. There's definitely the stuff that's to do with demons and talking to them and summoning them and dealing with them and sacrificing to them. And there's all the dark kind of stuff, the more satanic left-hand path type of stuff. But then you've got also like theosophy, which is far removed from that, and Wicca, and like the Golden Dawn, the whole Western esoteric tradition stemming from Rosicrucianism and Hermeticism all the way up to the Golden Dawn, is completely different kettle of fish. Kabbalah, completely different kettle of fish. And so people need to kind of separate those two ideas in their mind, because it's kind of become one trope that has quite sinister connotations. And that's the reason why we see people like Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson just conflating it all and saying that, like, the method that the Jewish rabbis gave us in medieval times to understand God and the various emanations of God in a way that we never did before is equal to Satanism and worshipping Satan in the form of Baphomet or whatever. So yeah, people just need to understand there's different things out there and learn how to distinguish between them and not conflate things.
RC, did you have any time to think about your experiences?
Well, yeah, I definitely have something good to end on, but I'm sort of curious what you thought about what Eleftheria was saying there.
I think it's pretty much spot on. I mean, I see things all the time, little things like, particularly in regards to just symbols and stuff, and people are constantly associating a geometric shape with something that they think is evil, and is they're attaching a shape that exists to their idea of some organization, as if, or as that shape is like bound to their mental concept of what it is, because they heard somebody talk about it or like that. So things like that I just see all the time on social media. Kind of like the clip that I brought up and talk about the Star of David, or
the Star of Remphan.
Yes, yeah. And it's also kind of a bummer because it's the more an idea is put there by somebody very influential, to people who don't know about things from a different perspective, that don't know anybody, and they just start to adopt the meaning of symbols, and like the symbols take on different meanings to different people, and they are just locked into not having any flexibility with symbolism and things like this. So yeah, I don't kind of my thoughts.
Well, so you're gonna like this, and I don't know if I've actually ever even talked about this, so the psychic's name was Dejay, and she trained at the famous, I think it's West Coast, but the Psychic Institute. It's a famous thing in America, and they actually pump out a lot of most of the really high-end psychic teachers I ever met in Vancouver. Because I grew up in I was the poor kid in the Waldorf school in the North Shore, which is full of millionaires, and they would pay ungodly amounts of money to work with psychics. And there was one psychic that I got taken to, and my mom got me one session every year for like 3 years, and it was great because I would ask test questions and she would get them right, and it's like, okay, I guess I can ask some real questions, because I was, a snarky 13-year-old at the start of it. And so it's like, I would ask for people in my class, tell me about this person. You describe them. I'm like, good enough for me. Good enough for me, right? Well, let's at least roll with this. And I didn't ask much about the future of the world, because I was trying to recover from such a traumatic experience at that time that didn't really care about the future of the world, honestly. I was just like, am I going to survive the next year? And how do I do that? And then eventually it led to her recommending, after, I got into the Golden Dawn, and that saved me at 15. But I did ask her what she thought about the internet. And she said this. She paused and she was like, there will be angels guiding you on the internet and guiding humanity. Spirits will work through the internet to help save humanity. And it felt so incongruous with what I would expect a psychic to say. I was like, excuse me, I've played Shadowrun. I think you need to check your sources. Like, this is not the naturalistic, ecological, shamanistic worldview that I expect a psychic here in Kitsilano to be saying to me, in such a high vibratory. You're saying that the internet's actually going to be a vehicle for spirits or angels. And she said that. Lockdown happened. I started to think about that again. I started to remember that I started thinking about that. Then I also thought, in the Kabbalah, the choir of angels of Malkut is the Ishim, which means the men. Ish is just man. Ishim is plural. It's often mistranslated as Ashim, meaning the flaming ones, but it's actually Ishim. And in the Bible, most of the angels are men. They're just humans. So are we the angels on the internet? Or did she mean spirits? I think she said spirits. So there you go. She also said OJ did it, and there was multiple people there at the time.
10 out of 10. Yeah. Well, she may have actually meant it literally.
Oh, I think so. I think so.
Yeah. We're talking about people, bringing through. Yeah, we're talking. We're in this age now where there's like C5 and like magic, and that's available to the masses, and people are bringing all of that stuff, which is influenced by the spirit world, forward to a global audience. And yeah, I think we're watching it happen for sure. That's incredible. Was that her exact words, that it'll save the world?
To help save humanity, or guide humanity, maybe.
Right. Yeah, that's.
I really wish, I hadn't suffered a home invasion and had everything taken from me and lost everything, and my entire universe was torn down to nothingness. But you know what? That was also predicted in 2003, 11 years earlier, when in the final operation of Temple Tahuti, me and the other adept there's 3 adepts, me and the 2 below me, we did one final Enochian operation before we closed the temple at Equinox 2003. And we set up the whole table, which had been used by our order since early 90s or 80s. And this is 2003 in Vancouver, in North Vancouver, not blocks from where Frater Achad is buried. And we summoned the angel Ave and worked and transcribed question and answers for 2-3 hours. We had all these tools set up. We had all the wax touts. It was a powerful setup on this mountainside in this big old house. And it was the house next to it 15 years earlier I had moved into as a 10-year-old that was an OTO oasis by chance. So isn't that crazy? Night next door, 15 years later. No. Yeah, 15 years later, summoning Ave through a full Enochian setup. And 15 years before that, I was living in that house, and it was an OTO oasis. Weird, right? All blocks from Achad's grave. When you look, now I'm looking back on it, it's like, what? And the angel of A gave devastating prophecies for the next 10, 15 years of me and my coworkers, fellow adepts' lives. And it all came true. And it's brutal.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I appreciate both of you. Are there any last words that you guys want to throw out there before we close out?
Knowing the future is fun.
Yeah, I don't think that anything that I can say has topped what Frater RC's shared with us. But yeah, let's keep using the internet as a vehicle for angelic spirits, for the betterment of all humankind. Let's do it. Let's bring the prediction true.
Yes.
Amen. Amen. Well, yeah, get your super chats in if you want to support me doing more studio original song recordings. Get your super chats into me. Join and become a channel member. You know how to support our work. Attend EnokiaCon and our June workshops. The titles, the events, like what we're doing is crazy. It's well worth the shekels you'll pay. You guys, shout out your work.
Yeah. Check me at Philosophical Minds podcast and Etherica podcast. Apologize sincerely, everybody, about my audio.
Sorry about that.
What's going on? But yeah, is what it is. And thank you all. And how about you, Eleftheria?
Yeah, check me out at Lifting the Lamp on my YouTube channel. The last few videos, if you go to the description, you'll find a link to my email list, which I'm also trying to build so that I can be independent of YouTube, so that I don't get censored if I say something problematic or too Christian or whatever it is. And keep an eye out on my channel and my email list for information about my upcoming book in the next few weeks. So yeah, that's it.
Boom. All right.
Wonderful. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Yeah, there's so many comments tonight, so many viewers. It's crazy how big this is getting. And yeah, thank you, Sky, for guiding the way and forcing us to watch clips of Kakodaimones who are trolling the internet for fresh blood and sucking our souls through our eye holes.
Yes, anytime.
We appreciate it, man. And you know, should I play one last meme?
Do it. We'll end on the meme.
This is in honor of our favorite fellow favorite Enochian Frater, who can't be here with us today, but he can be with us in spirit through this meme.
Solomonic magic is not a thing.
There we go. We love you, Aaron Leach. We'll miss you at EnokiaCon this year, but we'll have you in Prague, hopefully, obviously. And yeah, Eleftheria, man, excited to talk to you this ASAP about your planning of doing an actual in-person workshop at EnokiaCon. Is this true?
It's something that we spoke about. Yeah.
Well, we may as well now.
Yeah,
you're right here.
Hey.
What would you like? What are you considering doing?
Well, we were talking about something to do with the 91 parts of the earth.
So this EnokiaCon in Austin, you might in person lead a workshop, which is up to 20 people max in our workshop room, doing the parts of the earth Enochian magic.
Well, you put me on the spot there.
Yeah, if that's what you're interested in doing, sounds really exciting to me. Yeah, that would be amazing.
Well,
we'll talk about it.
Do my best to make it happen.
Yeah. If you want to do it, you're very welcome to do it. I mean, between you and Scott Stenwick and Terry Burns doing a workshop on Enochian magic, that would be 3 hands-on Enochian magic workshops. One a Watchtower one a Parts of the Earth one, and then Terry doing the table operation. That's like all 3 done by 3 of the best people. So yeah, that's crazy. I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but I thought people should know about it before it's too late, because these are in-person spots and we're down to like 20 spaces left. So yeah,
time to tell.
Yeah, time to get my A into G for figuring out what's happening with all of that. So yeah, thanks for giving me.
As long as you're legally allowed to leave the country and enter the United States, I'm sure it'll be not a problem.
Well, I'm not.
Your wife would have to let go of you for a while.
Yeah.
Unless she
Well,
came.
yeah, we'll talk soon anyway.
All right. Thanks, everybody. It's been a
All right.
slice. One more time, we'll wrap up with the new thing. See you guys next month in Austin.
Tonight.